Welcome back to the second inaugural debate, where this time Manar is still here, but this time he's not debating Warrior Insights. He's debating PensiveBlur on Twitch. And today the discussion is on: is Islamic society or is atheist society better when you're talking about for the entire goal of society? It's the same structure as last time, with a 10-minute opening statement that's going to lead into a general Q&A for however long, probably somewhere around an hour. We might have a hard stop if both of them just start arguing with each other and insulting each other. I don't see that happening. But I should be able to keep it under control as a moderator. But last time we let Manar start with the opening statement in his last debate, so I feel like this time we got to put him in second. So, PensiveBlur, if you'd like to start your opening statement.
Oh, all right. Honestly, I haven't timed myself, so I don't know if this is gonna be 10 minutes or not, but we'll see. I got a good chunk. All right. So, for those who believe in God, most of the big questions are answered. But for those of us who can't really accept the God formula, the big answers don't remain stone written. We adjust to the new conditions and discoveries. We are pliable. Love not need be a command, nor faith a dictum. I am my own God. We are here to unlearn the teachings of the church, state, and our educational system. We are here to drink beer. We are here to kill war. We are here to laugh at the odds and live our lives so well that death will tremble to take us. Charles Bukowski. We atheists perceive life as an opportunity to define one's own purpose and values. We derive our morals from a variety of sources, including personal experience, empathy, and consideration for the welfare of others. We are also influenced by philosophical and ethical teachings, such as Francis Bacon, that states, knowledge ultimately comes from sensory experience, and he emphasized a more scientific approach to the attainment of knowledge in terms of cumulative discoveries, which leads to the discovery of new laws and new inventions. Or Michael Foucault, who said that human thought changes and evolves over time, that our current reality and knowledge is not directly comparable to those of older times, and rather that concepts are time and generation specific, influenced by the realities of their own time. Rather than adhering to religious laws or edicts, us atheists often base our moral decisions on the potential for actions to cause harm or promote well-being. Rather than relying on religious texts or doctrines, we believe in the importance of personal autonomy, rational thinking, and evidence-based reasoning. We emphasize the importance of seeking truth, promoting human welfare, and appreciating the world through the lens of naturalism and science. Science being a critical tool in policymaking by providing evidence to inform decisions. This includes using scientific research to understand the likely outcomes and impacts of different policy options. One example being Portugal began implementing the research of the work system model presented in the book Leading Successful Change by Greg Shea and Casey Solomon. And by 2001, were able to lower drug abuse. Instead of treating drug use as a criminal issue, they started treating it as a public health issue. And by 2018, Portugal's number of heroin addicts had dropped from 100,000 to 25,000, and HIV infections rates from drug use injection had declined by 90%. Science provides data necessary to monitor the effectiveness of policies and laws after they've been implemented, allowing for adjustments as needed. Therefore, science doesn't just aid in the creation of laws and policies, but also in ensuring their ongoing relevance and effectiveness. Muslims are guided by the teachings of Islam as set out in the Quran almost 1400 years ago. They believe that life is a test and that every action is accountable. Muslims are encouraged to live in a way that is pleasing to Allah, with an emphasis on prayer, charity, fasting, and pilgrimage. Muslims strive for social justice. They value community and family. They place significant importance on the concepts of brotherhood and unity. Muslims also place honesty and integrity as crucial values in Islam. But I have to ask, where is the social justice in allowing child marriage to happen? Where is community and family when a Muslim man can be with a non-Muslim and not a Muslim woman? Where is brotherhood and unity when being gay can lead to imprisonment? Where is honesty and integrity when apostasy can lead to death? A female philosopher, Hannah Arendt, showed that inherent evil is not always upfront, big, or grand, but that it could be as simple as just following orders and not thinking deeply about one's actions. The Muslims' objective truth is their Quran, the literal words of Allah, serving as the guide in all aspects of their life. Can the word of God, Allah, be changed? Can they be misinterpreted? Who then is correct, the Sunni or the Shia? Or maybe even the Karajites, or the Druze, or any of the other 67 sects? The Quran may be their objective truth, but they still rely on subjective morals. An atheist uses science as their objective truth. It teaches us to question everything, to seek evidence, to test hypotheses, and not to accept claims at face value. To be open to change our mind when new evidence appears. To be a critical thinker. And that's all I got.
Manar, are you ready for your 10-minute opening
All
statement?
right, I'm ready. Thank you so
All right.
much, PensiveBlur. I took over. You had a lot of problems. We're going to discuss those later. I'm going to give you the opening statement right now, and I'll tell you what I think later. But yeah, guys, so I'll start with this. What does atheism have to offer your society? I don't want to be yelling, sorry, guys, I might get emotional. But have you ever seen The Matrix, the movie? That is the future the atheist promises society. We really don't have to look further than that movie. People born and living in a pod, sustained by pink goo, while their brains are plugged into a virtual reality machine till the day they die. This is the reality elite leaders of the atheist world discuss with each other in the WF annual meetings. The statement, live in a pod and eat the bugs, originated from those meetings, and that is the future those elites are aiming for, and it's absolutely clear. This might seem far-fetched to a lot of you, but huge percentages of the world population live today in large urban centers where people live lonely lives. They wake up alone, go to work alone, live in an apartment completely alone with no significant other in the home. They pleasure themselves alone and sleep all alone. Individuals living an increasingly isolated life in their studio or one-bedroom apartment while entertaining themselves with the recent movie production, or spend endless hours playing new video games and medicating yourself to sleep. This is the future atheists have to offer you. Most atheists won't admit this, but it's part of their delusion. It's clear as day. This is the only type of society atheists can offer humankind, and it's not news. Atheistic secular worldviews have dominated the modern world, and this is the result. Here's why. Atheistic worldviews produce this kind of society because atheism doesn't believe in any truths other than the scientific truths, which completely throws traditional and any biologically rooted morality out of the window. This traditional biologically rooted morality says that we can find certain objectives and immutable values in human nature, like marriage, the value of community, family, children, and God, and also the sacredness of the human body. Atheism says that's all garbage. To the atheist, there is nothing sacred about marriage. If you want to fornicate with 10, 20, 30 people, if you want to marry an inanimate objects, your dolls and your pets, go for it. To the atheist, there is no sacred act. Love is love. You have all the freedom to pleasure yourself. Don't let the religious zealots ruin your fun. After all, YOLO. Atheists also believe that family is nuanced. It's great to have a family if they're supporting you, but the minute your mom is being a pain, forget her. And if your dad's being annoying and putting too much weight on you, well, throw him in an old people home. What about your grandparents, uncle, and aunts that won't support your hedonistic lifestyle and personal freedom? Then make sure you cut them out of your life. As for children, who has time to raise the kids who leech your time and energy and do nothing but get in the way of your desires? Atheism has the same view on community, of course. If the community supports you, that's great. But the minute you have duties or responsibilities that the community puts on your shoulder, it's fine to leave that toxic community for a more accepting one. When it comes to religion, of course, the atheist doesn't believe in God. But let's say he does, and it's 100% provable in an atheistic society that God exists. They would look at worshiping the Creator as a drag. Why do I have to worship the God? Why can't He leave me alone to live and have my fun after all? YOLO, I only live once. And finally, atheism attacks the sanctity of the human body. If you want to cover your body in tattoos and plastic surgery, then why not? If you want to cut out certain body parts and replace them with new bodies, parts, you should all be allowed to do it. When it comes to all those things, atheism says the most important thing is to fulfill your personal desires. When you tell people all that matters is to satisfy your personal pleasures and get the next hit of the next big hit of dopamine to enjoy your life to the max, that makes people more willing to live in the pod. If technological advancement in the pod can fulfill your every desire, the result is extreme individualism. When you prioritize personal desires over relationships, they die out. Marriage has collapsed, and even monogamous dating has been increasingly extinct. Birth rate and family figures are plummeting. Society forced a huge percentage to be completely isolated without even feeling it because the constant medications, pharmaceuticals, video games, social media, dopamine hits. And the best part is you get it all in your pod. Atheism made people crave such a future. This is because atheism destroys personal morality and programs people to put their own desire over everything else like God or the afterlife. And that is how atheism destroys traditional morality. Traditional morality says, no, sometimes God becomes the first. Sometimes family and society comes ahead of the individual, and sometimes you just can't have what you want or live how you like. Traditional morality restricts individual choice to impose moral duties on people, whether they like it or not. That is the atheist big contention with traditional morality. In the past, people could be manipulated by traditional values, appeal to God, but as society is becoming more atheistic, telling people to do something as a duty to the God or your country doesn't really motivate them anymore. In atheistic society, people are only motivated by money and pleasure, and increasingly so. The way atheists give people in society what they want is by liquidating traditional values, and they do that by producing new technologies. Governments say you can choose your gender and then they create the surgery technology needed for that. Government says you can have sex with whoever you want with no obligations to spouses or kids, and they create the legal rules for that. They created Tinder and dating websites and social media for such cases as well. If you're pregnant, there's abortions to take care of that. If you have older kids, just give them up to us. We'll take them, give them up to adoptions. The government will take care of that. These policies aim to maximize individual happiness by prioritizing our desires, by absolving us from responsibilities and duties to others. Of course, antidepressants, prawn, and video games, all of it at the tip of your fingers, just constant stimulation. People are plugged into these pleasure machines that sap any last motivation they might have had to pursue any meaning in this reality. They say that the same reality the atheists tell you is a figment of your imagination and is a byproduct result of million years of evolution forces is the same reality they dismiss. We have to place the blame for the imminent dystopia at the feet of the atheists. That's where it belongs. Just get in the pod and eat the bugs. That's the future they promise your society. Also, none of us will have a choice in any of this. It's because atheism is authority. If you don't like it, if you don't like what's happening, it means you're an extremist. Technological advancement is inevitable, and you will have no choice in adopting it. When they invented the COVID vaccine, for example, did they ask you whether or not you wanted to administer it? Of course not. The vaccine is for your own good, and it's for the greater good. So your choice is really irrelevant in this matter. What will happen when they perfect the artificial womb? I want to hear an answer to this argument. Once the artificial womb is reliable, natural pregnancy will become illegal. Why? Because it's for your own good. Compared to natural pregnancy, artificial wombs are so much safer. By mandating artificial wombs, the mortality of children and women will improve drastically. If atheists control the society, then mandatory artificial wombs are definitely on the horizon, and natural pregnancy will look like an archaic practice with misogynistic tendencies. Impregnating a woman naturally might be deemed a human rights violation. You are subjecting the woman to 9 months of sleepless, painful nights, 9 months of morning sickness, and the actual birth is so excruciating and bloody, it literally rips the woman open. Such archaic practices should be banned, and only religious fanatics and misogynists will refuse to comply. While atheism rules society, all kinds of technological nightmares can be imposed on society in that fashion. What usually blocks such technologies is traditional morality. Why? Because traditional morality says there are certain immutable values that cannot be violated no matter what. Traditional morality says artificial wombs should not be allowed because there is a sanctity around natural human birth. There's an inherent value to it that is transcendent. The atheist says this is all mumbo jumbo. Whatever a mother gives to a child or vice versa during the pregnancy or birth can be mimicked using pharmaceuticals or other technologies. So just get over it. Get over your hang-ups. This is how the atheist society will introduce technologies and use the same logic in all their introductions. No matter how drastically the technology distorts human life, this is why, as long as atheism dominates society, then the personal pleasure pod is an inevitability. You might be skeptical that we are headed towards such a future. If you are skeptical about atheistic society's future, you just have to look at China, an atheistic nation. The personal pod is already a reality there. Millions live in tiny windowless apartments all by themselves in major cities like Beijing. What's more concerning is the Chinese social credit system, which ensures full compliance from the population. The same tech that gives you the pleasure machines also facilitate complete surveillance of all your communications and movements, all down to the cellular level. This is done through satellites harvesting your phone's data and turning your phone into a tracking device, and constant medical examinations and screenings, as we saw during the COVID pandemic. Technology also centralizes the financial system. Governments are quickly adapting digital currencies that can be tied to biological identification. All your financial and social activity can be monitored in real time. Technology allows governments to harvest all that data, and using their AI-guided algorithms, they can process that data to identify patterns of behavior that indicate any non-compliance and deal with it accordingly. Express the wrong opinion or associate with the wrong groups, and you can get banned, losing your bank account, job, or maybe even face criminal charges for hate and extremism. That's the reality in China. This kind of social credit system is already a reality and is coming to the rest of the world very soon. But technology doesn't stop at surveillance. Why not modify the human body using vaccines and pharmaceuticals and implants? What about genome editing people to reduce their consumption of red meat by making them repulsed to the meat? Literally an argument being talked about in the WEF. Sounds like a great solution to climate change. What about addressing the problem with violence and misogyny by introducing testosterone-modifying implants in men and genetically editing their T levels to a historic low? Or better yet, why don't you just upload the consciousness into the cloud using your Neuralink? Of course, all of these technologies are going to introduce the end of human species as we know it today. What can stand in the way of such an atheistic dystopia, living in the pod and eating the bugs? What can preserve traditional morality and biologically rooted morality that would block atheistic motivations and stop the proliferation of such technologies? What can help us preserve the kind of life that cherishes deep biologically rooted human values like marriage, community, family, and God? Islam's complete way of life does exactly this. If you really care about having a lovely, healthy marriage, having a lovely family surrounding you with parents, children, grandparents, and a community that gives you a sense of belonging, a sense of heritage and culture, then Islam is your answer. If you care about a sense of purpose and that existence is more than just atoms randomly knocking into one another, then Islam is the answer. You believe that human race is something special that deserves to persist. If that describes you, then Islam protects all of these things, and Islam is the answer to a better society. Atheism, however, will promise to destroy all of this and promise to shove you in your pod and eat your bugs.
Okay, you went about a minute over, but that's perfectly fine. At least you didn't go like 10 minutes over.
Okay, sorry.
Oh no, that's perfectly fine. As long as you're like within like 15.
I didn't use up my 10 minutes. So
True, yeah, he just gave it over to you. So I have two ways in. I took 2 points that both of you have made, and so I don't know which one we're gonna pick on when we're gonna go into the Q&A. Manar needs to plug in his camera, so he'll be right back. I know that's what he's running to do right now, because I can see the battery blinking on his stream. Don't worry, he's plugging it. He's getting it. Don't worry, he's getting it. Okay.
You got it. You got it.
Oh, he didn't get it in time.
Oh no.
No, come back on.
No, I thought he was prepared. He was pre-gaming it, but he didn't have the camera.
He didn't have it. There we go. We're back. We're back.
There you go. Look at that. And full battery. Nice.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Right.
I know you're good. Okay, I took 2 notes from each of your guys' points to basically to give you guys a general starting point for the, just general discussion. So during Blur's argument, he says that science doesn't just aid in the creation of laws, but ensure their effectiveness. So that'd be a really strong point to hit on, because I feel like you guys would have some very different contentions there. Where would you say that science influences laws, or would it be religion influences laws? That's something you could touch on. And then when Manar is talking about an atheist society, he talks about a very distinct society where he says like you will own nothing and be grateful. You will be in a pod. You will eat bugs. So I feel like that's another contention that would be had. So wherever you guys want to start, this is up to you. I'm only going to be in here once you guys start name comment, okay?
Yeah, I'll let Blur start since he did the intro. He can be the first one to attack my intro or my opening statement. I'll let him start.
So you were actually talking about like family values and traditions and everything like that. I'm wondering where your stance is on that. So you believe like it should just be a man and woman?
So if you want my basic foundation, I think heteronormativity is essential for society. And if you want to, so heteronormativity is the man and woman that create the baby. So I believe that's essential. I don't believe it's good or bad. I think it's essential.
Okay. So just man and woman, correct?
Yeah, heteronormativity is essential to society. Yes.
Okay. So what's
Everything
your
else
stance
is
on
extra.
polygamy?
So polygamy is yeah, it's acceptable. There's rules against to it. You cannot create like a divide in the family when you do polygamy. Like the other wives have to agree. Well, not necessarily. I mean, you could divorce the wives that don't agree, really. But yeah, I agree. I think it's a solution to the society. Absolutely. So what happens is in the society, there's a thing that we're not noticing, and we're going to notice more frequently is there's more women than men in societies usually. And if you notice, women don't really feel satisfied just picking a bad man. They actually would rather and this is happening in your atheistic society. Women would rather share the top guy than pick a guy that will be loyal to them, but he's on a lower status. So this is a natural thing, a natural tendency that even women agree with. Even in your society, women are actually sharing the top guy, and they're
So
all having
what
fun with the top guy. And this is without even polygamy needed. But I do agree in polygamy. What it does to me, if you're asking from the Islam perspective, it's a solution to another problem in society, which is there's going to be more feminine women. Usually, what happens is always in every society, every war, mostly men die off, and then women stay. There's more women than men, and mostly these women are widowed, so nobody will pick them up, nobody will take them. So the best chance for them to be taken is to be the second or third or fourth wife. So there's a lot of reasons for that. I can give you scientific reason, but all I have to do is look into the Quran,
yeah.
and it allows it. It
So
puts rules on it.
one of the, yeah, so one of the things that I find pretty interesting, so right, so from what I understand, in Muslim society, like polygamy is allowed for a man to have multiple women, but a woman can't have multiple men. Is that correct?
That's true. That's an
So,
abomination.
okay, so the one thing
So
that I
it
find
has to do,
kind of
like I said.
interesting, so with that line of
Go
thought,
ahead.
right? So the only thing that I find kind of interesting is that you're saying that there is more women than there is men. So with that line of thinking, why wouldn't you necessarily allow for women to be with more men? Because that would also control the birth rate, right?
So there's many reasons. Some of them are biological. I'll give you the scientific ones. Maybe you'll understand from that. But the reason I have to give you is it's in the Quran for me. But I'll give you a scientific reason for you because you're an atheist today. This is the debate. So the true reason is, can you imagine a woman marrying four men? If she gets pregnant, which one is the father? Can you tell?
There's literally tests for that.
No, but yeah, we're talking about back in the day before the test. You know, this test just
This
happened
is
50
not
years
back in the
ago.
day. Currently, right now, you're asking me a question about right now, modern times. There are tests for that.
Well, I thought you were talking about in general, Islam for 1400 years said no to the woman. Why is that happening? So that's my
Okay,
answer to you.
so
In general, back in the day, there was no way to test. Can you test? I'm asking you, can you test who's going to be the baby daddy? I think this testing, just pregnancy testing, just started like 50 years ago. I could be wrong.
could have been longer. I'm actually unsure about
Anyways,
that either.
for you, what about you? What's your thoughts on polygamy, but dating wise? Is it something wrong for a woman to share a man, like three or four women, from your atheistic
No,
perspective?
Also, it was made in
no,
1988.
1998? Wow. So even
88,
less than
88.
50 years. Oh, 88. Yeah, so less than 50 years.
yeah. So I do believe in personal autonomy, and just as long as the other partners involved are okay with it, they all have a mutual understanding of what's going on, I believe it's okay.
So can it ever be not okay? Like, for example, can you give me a situation where sharing one guy can be not okay, but everybody agrees on it? like a number of girls, maybe the guy status. Is there a way? Like I need to understand. I'm gonna ask you a lot of questions to understand your secular worldview. I really don't understand the basis of your morality. So you're gonna find
I
me
would have
answering a
to,
lot of questions.
yeah. So I'd have to believe that essentially it gets to the point where I would have to go more into like some kind of studies that were done or produced that I can see that I can like actually read into. So let's just say that like, hey, there's been studies in which there's been a polygamy family and like, they had three fathers and one woman and the child was still like good in society. Then okay, then we could take that as a basis, as a base to say like, hey, then that should be okay, right? But once we get into more studies where like the examples get more extreme, then perhaps that's where it should be limited.
So is a big reason for your morality, like a big reason to say this is something right or this is something wrong, is its consequence?
Yes.
So that means you'll never be able to be right. You'll always have to test out if you're right or wrong, correct?
Yes and no, just because you also have to do like the thing is like atheists will also look into history, right? History is something that has a lot of stuff that's already been done. So it's not necessarily that we can't ever be right or correct, but there's also nothing wrong with that, with nothing ever being set in stone, just because we're always evolving throughout time.
Well, my question is, how would you even know then that murder is wrong? That means it could possibly evolve, that there's nothing rooted innate intuitively in murder that makes it wrong. So that means in your society, I mean, it's probably far-fetched, but for example, I'll say something else like cutting your dick off. There's nothing innately wrong there, but in your society, it actually might switch soon. And so my understanding is, how would you reconcile that? How do you reconcile something not being wrong and then switching to being wrong? How do you switch your habits? How does it affect you? Do you actually switch your morality as well at the same time when you discover this? Because, for example, objective morality for us, everything's already been outlined. I was telling this about Isaac, that it's already, the evolution of morality has evolved. Like, for example, Adam started, and in Adam, they could marry their sisters, but now you cannot marry your sisters. And this is something that's basically moral evolution. So we don't have to question anymore. We don't have to test out to marry our sisters, see if it's okay or not. We just know it's wrong. For you, it seems like your site is ever evolving. So how do you reconcile with that? How do you adapt to the evolving society? Like, do you feel like you yourself have went through an evolution of morality?
Yeah, I would say so. Just because, as you said, right, your objective morality comes from the Quran. My objective morality comes from science. So there is already a lot of stuff that to go back on, right? So the reason science says like, hey, you shouldn't have sex with your sister or with your brother or anyone that's a close relative is just because genealogically, like it's gonna mess up your genes, right? And you can see it all the time, especially in extreme cases when it comes to like the royal family. Like you could still see it today. There are still cases of it. When you look at the like family lineage of England, like they're having a lot of disorders, a lot of mental disorders, a lot of physical disorders. So it is prevalent and it's real,
So
right?
yeah, but there's distinctions. For example, we think it's wrong, but we think it's wrong because it's an actual filthy act. Like there innately within the act, it's a filthy act. Like there's something
Yeah.
wrong
I will
in
say
doing
it's
that.
also innate as well. Like there's
No, no,
also
but
something about like a
how is it innate?
like
Because
as a kid, you don't grow up thinking like, yeah, I want to have sexual relations with my mother
no, no,
or
that's not what
sexual
I mean.
relations with
I
my
mean,
sister.
like,
Like
how is
that's
it
still
innate?
innate inside you.
How is it innate? For example, if science figures out that there's no genetic modification that happens, then you have no other argument against that.
But there is.
There's not, no, it cannot be innate if you use science. So if science,
There is still innate, right? Because at the end of it too is like I believe in evolution, right? So we all derive from chimps. Those are like our closest well, technically bonobos are our closest living like ancestors. Then it is chimps. But here's the thing, like um sorry, I was going with my line of thinking. I lost it.
no problem. I was just trying to understand. because I don't think no. I think you're misrepresenting yourself. So when you say you take innate values and things, that's not true. You only take the scientific value of it. So the science has to tell you it's wrong for you to know it's wrong. You actually cannot subjectively say it's wrong. You could feel like it's wrong, but if to your society, if science agrees with you,
okay.
then you look bad.
No, sorry. Okay, so now I got what my line of thinking was. So like, there's still evolution, right? So in evolution, you still find like chimps and animals. You'll still find that like in the animal kingdom, you don't see animals having sex with their parents, right? That's something innate right there. And they don't have some religion that says like, or some book or some doctrine that says like, hey, like you shouldn't have sex with them, right? It's not a moral obligation to do it. It's just you shouldn't do it. Like it's already
Isaac,
programmed inside of us to not do it.
can you look that up? I think cats have sex with their parents, dogs do it, pigs do it.
Remember, you also have to think about it this way is that like you have to think about that like, hey, the closest relatives that we are is the bonobos and the chimps. And also specifically when it comes to evolution, majority of the times that like other animals are having sex with others is not just for sex and it's not just for procreation, it's also for dominance.
Okay, very interesting. So it's interesting. It's interesting because you're saying that scientifically you can prove incest is wrong
Yes,
because of the
scientific.
genomic editing that
Yes,
happens to it. Well, let's say science figured out a way to genome editing that out of it. Why is it wrong? For us, we believe it's a filthy act innately.
because we
But let's
still
say
have
your
our
science
subjective
figured out the
morals.
technology to fix the genome
Mhm.
switching. Why is it wrong act? Why is it a filthy act to you?
Because we still have our subjective morals. Like we're not ruled by the objective morals, right? Like we have both morals to play to bounce off of each other. We have our objective morals and then we have our subjective morals, right? Innately for me, it still feels wrong, right? If it was still objectively, like scientifically, if it was okay to have sex with your mother and somehow it wouldn't mess up the gene, subjectively for me, I wouldn't be okay with it. And that's already been set by societal
So
norms.
even if it doesn't affect the gene, you still won't be okay with it. Okay, I wonder if
In the
the rest of your atheistic
future,
society will, and I will test you here. Let's see if you would be okay with it. The rest of, but what if the rest of your atheistic society believes it's okay? I think you're going to fall in line, and I'll ask you a question here that clarifies this. For example, do you believe men can become women?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so let's say your society disagreed with you. Would you still believe that?
In terms of, for me, subjectively, like, yes.
So I no, because I don't think you were born with that belief. I don't think you ever had that belief intuitively. I don't think it was put into you except by conditioning from your society. So if your society didn't agree with this, it would have been a bad thing. So what I'm trying to get to is the incest necessarily, if your society agrees with it, I think you're going to agree with it because just like this trans movement, it wasn't intuitive. It's not innate in you, but you still believe in it. It's true. Maybe this incest is not going to be innate in you, but you're going to believe in it because the conditioning. Can you respond to that?
Yeah, I say that there's nothing wrong with that.
So yeah,
So,
so you will switch your morality according to your society. So you might actually look at incest as a good thing
in a
if the
far-fetched
rest of
take,
society agrees
currently,
and
right
they did
now,
the genome
no,
editing
there
out of
is
it.
not. Then if you leave genome editing out of it, then no, it's not okay. Because
Yeah,
then
no. If they
it's
take the no.
basis
If
of
the
that.
science figured out a way to genome editing the imperfections that is created in ancestry, you know what I mean? Like the genome
The thing
editing
is,
the blindness out.
you can't still come up with this example. Like this example still doesn't work because it's like you still don't know what it is that like is like what are the concepts of it? Like how exactly is this being done? Like how is it that like we can make it so like genie like that it's not messing up the genes, right? Is it a pill? Is it GMOs? Is it genetic manipulation? Like what is it exactly that's going on? Because
Wait.
depending
As
on
an
that,
atheist, you actually disagree with
because then
genome editing?
ethics has to play into that.
Do you think, as an
I'm
atheist, you disagree with genome editing? Let's say you genome editing
no.
imperfections out of the human body. You disagree with that? Do you think that's wrong, inherently wrong?
No. From
No,
what I can
right?
tell
Yeah,
right now,
exactly. So you don't think
no.
that's wrong. So let's say your scientific improvement and technology gained so much wisdom that now they can genome editing imperfections like baldness, short, these genetic mutations that happen when ancestry happens. This is an easy game for us. We are the scientific community. We are Zion. We come from Xenu, whatever it is. We can do anything we want. So they've figured out a way to scientifically, genetically edit all the imperfections that happen. I'm telling you, like, there's no way incest is wrong in your society. I don't think so.
Just
You have to
a
give me an innate argument.
just a quick pause on this. Blur, you're either too quiet or you're muted on your stream. Someone said in your chat, and I checked it. They're correct. On your stream, you can't hear you. Sorry to pause you, Manar. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, you're good. My mic is on, so I don't know what else it could be. Oh, shoot.
It might be muted in Streamlabs. I don't know. Yeah, you're working on Discord. It's just on your stream, you can't hear you.
Yeah, I know. No, but it's not muted on my OBS. Yeah, I have to restart the stream or something like that. I don't know. We'll see right now. Hold on.
Yeah, but basically what I'm trying to get to is there's no innate truths. It's only scientific truths. And the society either agrees or disagrees, and that's what follows.
Oh, shit. All right. Looks like
We're all good?
my stream isn't working. No, my stream isn't working. I can't even stream back on. It says something about
If
like
you
the
have
queue
another
failed.
camera, it could be that you're using the camera on Discord, so it won't plug it, or you're using the microphone on Discord, so it won't plug it onto your stream.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's exactly what it is then. But
So you
either
need
way, my
another
OBS
camera.
is
So I had to
working.
use a different camera. Yeah.
Uh,
Unless you want to just put your Discord up and people will see it, and then just let them hear from the desktop, and they can hear us talking. They might not hear you, but they can hear the Discord.
yeah, they can't hear me, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, whenever I start speaking, the desktop audio, it doesn't even move up. It only moves up when you start to speak.
Oh damn.
Yeah. Oh well. All right. You guys are gonna have to listen to me muted. Go to Manar's channel. Go to Manar's
Stop
channel.
by.
You
Stop
guys are
by.
good.
Yeah, I'm sure Manar will be
Donate,
okay
donate.
with that. I don't see him having a problem with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
you guys go
definitely
to
not gonna have
Isaac,
an
man.
issue.
Help Isaac out. He's the boss.
I'm not even live, okay? I'm recording.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, stop by here if you guys need any.
All right. Genetic manipulation. We're going with this. All right, keep going.
Yeah, so you agree with it. You agree with genetic editing. You agree with genetic editing imperfections of the human body out of it.
I would say right now, at this point in time, yes, but I don't have enough information to actually put a 100% stance on it. But at this time, from what you're asking me, yes, I would have to agree with it. But once again, like the thing is, like most atheists derive their morals. It's not just based off science, and I think that's where the issue becomes, right? It's like you can't just take everything from science to say like that's where your subjective morals come from. Your objective morals are a good stance to come from science, but subjectively, like you do stuff to fit in with society, right? And there's still a lot of good things that like other societies and other religions can teach us. Like this is actually true. Like this is something that we don't deny. But it's when you start solely focusing on like, hey, the teachings of the Bible, the teachings of the Quran, that's when things can get iffy.
Okay, fine. That's fine. We'll move on from that point. I really believe, and maybe you can give me an argument against this that's scientifically proven, but I believe you will agree in incest when it comes to its time. Your only argument against it is saying that you don't have the information necessary to create an argument. But oh my God, can I ask you, like, where the hell do you have the information necessary to think a man can become a woman? And have you looked into the studies? Have you looked into research? But you believe it 100% to be a fact.
So
So
one of the studies that has one of the studies that has been done is that typically when it comes to transgender, a lot of the issues that do stem that like they actually fall into depression or anxiety is just because of the pressure from other societal norms, right? So a lot of them feel that like, hey, like I feel like for a man, right? They would feel innately that they are a woman. But the issue stems with like most of the depression and anxiety comes because also societal norms bash on them, where it's like, hey, like this is an incorrect view for you to have. And they start going into religion and they start saying, like, hey, this is like not correct and everything like that. And typically they start feeling better once they actually do have the operation and they start becoming more of better in society.
I'm
They
just so
start
confused because the
functioning
same
more
argument you
better.
use to support trans, the same argument you use to not support the incest community. You say the trans, they feel this way and they have this feeling, and this is something that they were born with and intuitively. I mean, yeah, I could say the same thing about the incest guy. He's intuitively in love with his sister, and he just feels like he's compelled to do this. He's compelled. There's a force inside of him pulling him, trying to tell him to do this. I'm still trying to
Okay.
understand, why is
So
it a
how about
filthy
this?
act? You have to explain to me the filth behind it.
Okay.
And
So
if
how
you
about
do, you
this
have to
too
also
as well?
the problem is, I'll tell you why it's not. You can't explain it, because when you do explain it's a filthy act, you also have to explain that trans is also a filthy act. You have to.
Okay. So
This is what your logic is going to
so
lead
tell
you
me
to, and you
this.
can never
Is
get.
it okay? Is it okay for me to have sexual feelings and thoughts about a 7-year-old?
Look, I can never be the moderator of your brain. I'll tell you, every thought in your brain is okay. Your actions is what you're going to get counted on. Look, your thoughts, I don't care about your thoughts. You can think, today you thought about jumping out of the roof 7 times. You thought about blowing up buildings, I don't know, 100 times. None of my business. It's your actions that I care about. You know how many times I thought about, you know, pulling one? Excuse me, so disgusting. No, I'm just saying, you can think about things all day long. It doesn't matter to me. I want to look at your actions. Only when you go after a
Okay,
7-year-old,
so
that's what I
not
care
just
about.
my thoughts. So not just my thoughts. Is it okay for me to be with a 7-year-old?
No. No, for you in this society, it's not okay for you to be with the 7-year-old. I don't know how you mean by, like, sexually or marrying her.
Both.
So, like, for example, like, I would give you, like, for example, you're my friend and I trust you, you have money. I would give you my daughter. Like, I would tell you, yeah, my daughter can marry your son, even if she's young. So yeah, I would like give her, yeah, like I would give you the promise of, maybe you or your son, the promise of my daughter. Yeah, I could see myself doing that.
And if your daughter says no?
Yeah, but my daughter is 7. She has no knowledge of anything. So whatever I commit to, I'm the responsible party, so I can make decision over her. And then she'll fall in love with it. Like, she'll learn to love it, like, because that's all the reality she knows. Like, and as long as I support
That
her.
sounds like Stockholm syndrome right there.
No, as long as I support. I mean, yeah, every kid is feeling Stockholm. I mean, you not feel like Stockholm syndrome, stuck in the house? You couldn't do anything. If your parents left the house, you couldn't move. You couldn't even leave the. In America now, it's illegal to leave your kids under the age of 12 alone in the home. So that, of course, creates a lot of syndromes, a lot of problems where people are over attached to their parents. But I don't know. What do you mean Stockholm syndrome? Everybody has issues and mental issues from their parents. This is not something unique. I have mental issues. You have mental issues from your parents.
Okay, if you want, I can give you a definition. So, with Stockholm syndrome is a proposed condition or theory that tries to explain why hostages sometimes develop a psychological bond with their captors. It is a result from a rather specific set of circumstances, namely the power imbalances contained in a hostage-taking, kidnapping, or abusive relationship.
So this is okay. I understand what you guys are trying to get to. You're trying to get to, like, she's hostage. She's not hostage. Like, for example, she tells me, "Dad, I don't want to get married to this guy. He's ugly." I'll be like, "Okay, baby, I'll find you somebody better." Or she tell me, "Daddy, I don't know, but I don't know. I'm worried. I'm not sure I'm ready. I'll be like, okay, baby, I'll give you a couple more months, a couple more years, whatever. But she tells me, no, I'm not gonna get married. I'm gonna go to the become a doctor and be a slut in high school or college. I'm like, fuck no, you're gonna get married ASAP by 16, 17. I want you out of the home. I don't want to have to worry about you.
I mean,
I don't care
that
if
would
she thinks
honestly
it's
be a
Stockholm or
wild
not.
take for a 7-year-old to make right there. I'll just say that.
What?
Because we're still, the whole thought bubble right now is that this is a 7-year-old girl.
No, but I'm trying to understand here. Well, what's your contention that your daughter doesn't want to get married? What are you gonna say if she says I don't want to get married to the guy you chose?
Well, a
You're just gonna say,
7-year-old
okay,
girl.
baby, whatever you want, whatever you
I would
decide is
not.
gonna be the
I would
reality of
not
the
be
world.
proposing. I would not be proposing my 7-year-old girl to be married to a man.
Well, I mean, she's not gonna get married at 7, but I would start preparing her. I would start telling her,
So,
hey, get
what's a
ready, we're gonna
good age?
get you married soon.
What's a good age to be married then for a child?
So
Or
I
should
want
a
to get
child
my
even be
kids
married?
married ASAP. So I heard in America, or well, the scientific is at 14, 15, they're very sexually active. So by 15, 16, I want her married. I don't want her to be having sex without marriage.
Okay. So at
But in
15 or
Quran, in
16?
Islam, if you're asking me about Islam, it's the puberty. The day she
So you
becomes
would
an
be
adult is the
okay.
day she is
Because
she
here's the
hits
thing
puberty.
too, right? Just going based off what you're saying. So you're okay with your 7-year-old child setting her up for marriage to a man, okay? And now you're saying that your daughter, right, that you've already set up with this adult man, now that she has just turned, let's just say the extreme circumstance 11, because 11 sometimes some women can have their periods, but we'll just say 12 or 13 because that's generally the age, right? So at 12 or 13, you're okay with this adult male having sexual relations with your 12 or
You're
13 year
talking
old
about
daughter?
her husband?
Yes.
Yeah, her husband. Yeah, sure. If she's puberty and I want to get her out of the house, absolutely. Yeah, she's his. She's his. He has all responsibility over her. But of course, I picked the right guy, and I have full authority on who she marries. But yeah, 100%.
So
I'm so happy she's out of the house. I don't have to worry about her anymore. He has to worry about her.
so I wonder what your moral stance is behind that. Like what
I'll tell you
exactly
what
it
my
is
moral
that
stance. If you
drives you
tell
to
me your
believe
moral
that.
stance, what's your moral stance? Like, why do you disagree with that?
I
Like,
disagree with
why
it
is that
because
bad
it
for
has
you?
been proven time. Yeah, but there's
Like,
been
what's the age
countless
of
studies
consent
that
for you?
anything the age of consent. I mean, okay, so subjectively, I would have to
No. I
say
wanna no.
21.
Stop saying subject. I wanna hear from the atheistic argument. I wanna hear the truth. When I
That is the
talk,
atheist argument.
it's all
Because
subjective. So every atheist has their different subjective opinion about this answer.
yes, yes.
How is this? How is
But
this
I would say
community?
because everyone has personal autonomy over what how they think. It's the same way you just said, right? Like I have the capability and I have my own thing that I'm allowed to think.
Yeah, but you guys disagree on the most basics. Like, what's the age of consent? Are you kidding me? You guys cannot agree on the age
18.
of consent? Okay, give me your
I would
subjective
say
opinion. Go
18, but
ahead.
I would like to have 21.
18?
I would
Why
like to
18?
be
What?
21.
You know, that means there's United States that are actually against your morality. There's states that
Do
allow
you think
marriage at
I'm
16 and 14.
atheism? Just because I'm an atheist doesn't mean that I'm just always going to be like pro United States.
And let
That's
me ask you
not the
this.
thing.
Let me ask you this. So you think the age of marriage is 18. What about the age of sex? When do you think is the right? When do you think these kids are waiting till 18 to have sex? Like, be honest with me. What's happening? Are these kids having sex earlier than 18, or are they having sex after 18? What's happening?
Yeah, there are definitely everyone is having sex at different ages, right? They
Okay, and
are
how do you
having sex at
save these
different ages.
kids that are having sex at 12 and 13 and 14? How do you stop them from having sex like that? They have this urge inside of them. They want to fuck. They're gonna fuck. Sorry for the vulgarity, guys. They're gonna do it. There's something in them. How are you gonna
Oh,
stop it? Tell me.
your
How are
camera
you
went
stop it?
out
What's your? At least I have a solution. I immediately marry them the second they start feeling that, feeling. I get rid of them and I force them
with
to be
education,
stuck with one person. What's your solution to
with
that?
edu with education and sex studies. That's the best way to educate them. You
Isaac,
have
can
to
you look
teach
up
them
the
that, like, hey,
stats
the
on how much
consequences.
sex have proliferated after sexual education was introduced? I think actually there's an increase in sexual activity between teenagers, not a decrease, after sexual
There's an
education was
increase.
introduced.
you do have to realize too that there's an increase as well because the religion propaganda has been pushed that like they don't want to teach this. They don't want to teach safe sex. They are trying to make it so like, hey, like you can only have sex once you get married. But this has shown very like results that like it's increasing. It's literally the opposite of what they're trying to do, what
So
religion is trying to do.
Yeah, but you
current
just said that's the way to reduce it.
Current studies has shown that although formal sex education varies in content across schools, studies have demonstrated that comprehensive sexual education programs reduce the rate of sexual activity, sexual risk behaviors. Examples of the number of partners, unprotected intercourse, STIs, and adolescent pregnancy.
Yes, and the opposite is happening because religion is getting involved in government and
Interesting.
preventing sex studies to be done.
No, what's happening is your atheistic society is so immoral that finally, when they introduce sexual education, it calmed people down a little bit. But this is proof that you need education, that your intellect actually changes that subjective opinion. And this is another argument against the atheist community. Everyone is feeling their subjective opinions, the facts of the matter, and so they're always falling in these sinful acts. And they have to be saved. They have somebody has to come and teach her, tell them, hey, by the way, it's really wrong to have sex at 12 years old with random people. And finally they wake up. So for us, we never had a problem like that. So no wonder I thought it was proliferating, because in my community we never had an issue like that. We never have an issue where there's so much sex happening, we have to introduce sexual education to calm it down, because we actually have a moral compass. Whereas for, I get it now, your
So
society, the atheistic point of
I
view
will
is
I will
skewed.
say this. So I will say this. One of the things that the United States and many of the Western civilizations, the reason that there is so much of these numbers that are high when it comes to certain Western civilizations is because they actually keep the data on this. I was actually trying to look up stats and statistics in Islam societies. It is so difficult to find numbers. Like I cannot it's
I
so
mean,
hard. Like
do you not see that Islamic societies have the most amounts of marriage? Like it's much bigger marriage rates, less divorce rates than the West,
so
much bigger marriage
yeah,
rate.
there are also less reported suicidal deaths.
Yeah.
When the case is, it's probably more than likely underreported. There's actually a
No,
study
there's
on
actually
this.
no
Let
suicides
me
in
show
the
you.
Arabic world. Actually, it's also almost like diabetes. It's only something I found when I came here. There is no suicide. It's very rare, and if it ever happens, it's because a
Okay, so
Christian or
which
an
is it? Is it
atheist that.
rare? No, is it rare or does it not exist?
No, it's extremely rare. So rare that only when it happens is because an atheist is doing it, or like for example, I remember in United Arab Emirates, I was born and raised in Dubai. Never in my life did I even think about it. I started thinking about it because of I was watching movies, and then I remember the only other time anybody ever said something about it was a Bulgarian friend of mine who tried to go up the. He was super drunk. He tried to go up a mountain, the building, and jump off, and everybody was egging him on. Yeah, jump, jump. It's just something that we never see. It's never done. It's something we never talk about. It's in non-existent in the Arabic world, Muslim world. See, this is what I'm telling
So
you. I
so there's
actually, our
actually a
societies are
study
so
done.
different.
So there's actually a study done in 2020 that's actually in the National Library of Medicine, in which is determined like undetermined accidental mortality as possible sources of underreported suicides. Population comparing Islamic countries and traditionally religious West countries. Basically, they did a bunch of results. They were looking at the numbers that were reported and everything like that. The conclusions came to the results indicate underreporting of suicides in Islamic countries. This might inadvertently lead to reduced access to mental health preventative services in both the Western and Islamic countries. So,
And
like,
what did
it
they
does
saw?
happen, and it more than likely you probably don't know the actual numbers because a lot of the times it's like if someone falls to their death, they're gonna report it as like, oh, this person fell, but they're not gonna consider it like, hey, it's possibly suicide. If someone dies to like some kind of poison intoxication, they might just say like, "Oh yeah, that guy is dumb. He just died from poison intoxication," without having to like think about the fact that like, hey, he might have actually su- considered suicide and like took pills, medicine, or whatever it was in order for him to kill himself. So there are
What's your proof?
underreported cases.
What's your proof that it's underreported? How does the source proof it's underreported? What does it say
So
about it?
the source does it because so
How does it prove it's
essentially what they did was
underreported?
that So essentially what they did was that they looked at other Western civilizations that actually do report the data and the numbers around Islamic countries that also have high yields of religious what's the word that they use? But basically they're also as religious as they are like in Islamic countries.
You can
And
say
from what
religious
they can
zealot.
see is that like, hey, the numbers are really high. They tend to be higher. Yet in Islamic countries with the same kind of like, religious push, like it tends to be a lot far lower. And it just doesn't make any sense because a lot of the stuff that they also put is like, hey, how did this person die? Due to fall. Not as suicide, but just due to fall. How did this person die? Due to like intoxication,
No,
due
no.
to these
Okay,
other circumstances.
so according to your source, the reason it's underreported in the Muslim world, the suicides in the Muslim world, guys, listen to this. The reason the Muslim world is underreported is because every other Christian society around it has so much higher suicide rates that there's no way scientific community can agree that the Muslim world has this less of a suicide rate. That's what they argue in the actual paper. Because that's
Basically, what it's also
clear,
saying
like
is that
that's
undetermined.
speculation and that's not numbers. They didn't do any number checking or like I thought you were going to tell me, well, based on 1,500 studies, they looked at 1,500, it looked like there was underreported numbers and 50%.
So the
But you're telling
studies
me just
were
because they were
done
looking at
between
other
20.
countries around them, they have huge numbers of suicides. They don't. That means this is underreported. That's not proof.
And that's a good basis to start off at. It is a good
Yeah, but you're
basis. Just because,
speculating.
but this
We
speculating
cannot
that's
start off
going on,
speculation.
no, you can start off by speculating. It's
Not
honestly
in the,
good to question numbers
before the
that like
debate, not
don't
now.
seem like they're good.
See, I
No,
can't
no,
talk to
it's
you about that
honestly good.
because how am I going to argue they're underreported if even the source doesn't argue that? The source is just saying it seems like the data is so conflicting that we have to just assume that there's something wrong. But the proof is Islam just doesn't allow this idea of self emulation to exist. It's only in your Western societies that this exists. I've never. This is not. This is only in the movies that it's being proliferated. It's in the music. It's in the new productions, but it's never existed. Like, where in the atheistic society can you tell me, point at like a scripture, a book, anything that tells these people to do it? And so you like, why would you even assume that suicide rates should be high in the Muslim world? I don't just because they're high in your world.
So for one, I would assume that people are scared to go ahead and report these kinds of feelings and these emotions that they have, right? What would happen if someone that has thoughts of suicidal tendencies were to report it to an Islamic someone in Islam?
Okay. Okay. No, no. No, man. I think you're a little bit misguided there. But here, I'm gonna go
So
ahead
what would
and just.
happen? No, but
There's
you
no
didn't answer my
suicide.
question. What
There's
would
no
happen?
suicide in the Muslim world.
You just gave me an example of something that you experienced.
I told you the only the whole my whole existence in the whole Middle East, and I've lived in at least 7 countries: United States, Syria, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. My only thing I've ever seen about suicide was me because I was so fat and ugly and disgusting, and I had no friends. My brother was super popular that I was like depressed. Not I would never say suicidal, but depressed.
So it does
And
exist.
then the only other person I can ever think of is my atheistic friend. And I was overindulging in movies and video games and stuff. So no wonder I was. So what I'm telling you is it's a programming, social programming that's being proliferated through video games and movies. And I was susceptible to it. And I'm telling you why, because I was actually watching a lot of movies and I was playing League of Legends nonstop. And so I felt it. The only other person that ever talked about it was my Bulgarian friend who was atheistic, and he actually was trying to jump because his girlfriend dumped him. We don't have
But
anything like, we
just
don't have, oh my girl dumped me, so I'm gonna jump. We don't ever think like that. It's only in the atheistic world. No human,
how
no
would
man in the world thinks, oh my God. No Muslim man thinks, oh my God, my girlfriend dumped me. We are able to get four. We don't care about one. But anyways, I want to get to your points. Let's start attacking your actual introduction because you spelled a lot of nonsense. I'm not gonna lie. You don't accept God. You say you're your own God. I want proof of that in your
that
opening
was a quote.
statement. And I want,
That was a
and you quoted somebody. So let me give you my points, and then this is my points from your opening
yeah,
statement.
yeah.
Why don't we accept God? Because I am my own God. Excuse me. God bless. Astaghfirullah. That's scary. I want proof. Kill war. War kills the or religion killed a lot of people, or religion did a lot of wars, or wars was justified by religion. I think that was one of your points. And that's crazy
No,
to
I
me
never said that.
because the colonizing world is all liberal. I have a lot of names here. Actually, I'm going to name them: Nagasaki, Hiroshima, Iraq, Libya, Mao, Stalin. That's all atheistic murders and atrocities. So it's surprising that you're only seeing that the Muslim world is committing atrocity. I want you to name one Muslim modern war in the modern world. Next is derive sources from experience, sensory only. This is why I have a problem with atheism. When you derive your only subjective opinions and you create an objective view of them, when you create an objective view from only subjective opinions that you're only using empirical data, this is very flawed because if you're only using sensory data only, that means you're not even using your consciousness or intuition. That means you won't even basically this is why science is flawed. It cannot study experience. It cannot study consciousness. It cannot study intuition. And you're doing the same thing as an atheistic society, so you're actually just as flawed. And this is why you're never gonna reach the promised land. You're always gonna make mistakes. That's why you have to test your morality, because you can't even look into your consciousness and derive from them lessons or your intuition, because your science doesn't even believe in consciousness. Because it's not empirical fact. It's not empirically studied. Michael said human thought changes over time. This is another argument. This is again your argument against yourself. Like the atheistic morality is an ever-evolving morality. Why would anyone in this society want to follow it? Like I said, your aim is to get to the pod and eat the bugs, and you don't even know it yet. I'm telling you, that's where you're gonna get to, and you're proving it to me. You're saying this model of human thought is changing over time. I'm telling you, at some point, you're going to be okay with living in the pod because, as I said before, all the pharmaceuticals, all the medications, the video games, everything is being plugged right in. Why would you not want to stay in the pod? It's better than living in a random society or all alone. And then potential for action is what atheists look at. That's how they know something is wrong. This is my argument against incest. You will never know that incest is wrong if you can genetically modify genetic mutations. How is anything wrong anymore? This is why you guys actually believe in sodomy. You can't actually accept that it's a wrong act. And then this final thing, use science and naturalism to understand the world. Like I said earlier, when you use science and your sensory, your empirical observations only, it's very flawed. You're leaving a whole different dimension of the world, which is the thought world, the dream world, the non-conscious world, or the unconscious world, the thing inside your brain that actually activates and sees the world as it is, and you can't see it. So science is very, very flawed, and those are my points against your opening statement. I would like for you to just address them. How are you your own God?
So, do you consider terrorism an act of war?
Okay, describe, give me an example of what happened, and I'll tell you if it's wrong or not. Because when you say
ISIS
terrorism, I
attack
mean, it's
from
just
9/11.
general.
Yeah, like the most obvious one is the 9/11 attack.
Is that an act of war? Like if Saudi Arabia did that? Yeah.
Yes. So then that is something that happened in the modern century with Islam. That's one example, right?
Yeah, but my argument is that this was in the constitution, like it's in the governmental officials are coming up and creating this is as the policy. Like the policy was to bomb Nagasaki, even though we didn't need to. It was the policy to do it because we needed to show them strength, and we used this subjective morality, and we didn't use God at all. But for example, like let's say let me give it to you. I don't believe that the 9/11 was Saudi Arabia, but let's say that was Saudi Arabia. That was all covert. It's all under the table. It's under the government eyes. It's not necessarily official. And so this is not, it doesn't rise to the same level as Nagasaki. So if you're trying to equate 9/11 and Nagasaki, that's not the same equation at all. And I wouldn't say that's an actual, like an actual, like they didn't go to war against Saudi Arabia. They went to war against the ISIS group. So you go to war against that group. It's not the country. So that's not a representation of Islam or an Islamic country doing a war. It's a representation of a terrorist group that you don't know. Al Qaeda, we know. I mean, I don't know if Isaac wrote that down. I saw him write something, but it was funded by the CIA. I mean, are we gonna mess around with this? Like, Al Qaeda was funded. I mean, you know, he was what's his name? Osama bin Laden was actually a U.S. War hero. He was fighting the Soviets, right? Soviet Russia, and then all of a sudden he became a criminal whenever we felt it. But he was actually fed money and weapons and everything from America, from the CIA.
Yeah, but it was still people that follow the teachings of Islam that incited this act of terrorism, correct?
No, no, I don't think this is actually something doable in Islam. I don't think this is I don't think scholars would unanimously agree that this is something allowed to do in Islam. No, I don't think so. Because this a lot of civilian lives died. It wasn't like you're attacking a base. Like a lot of my arguments against October 7th, for example, is that Hamas was following their charter. Like they didn't go after civilians, they went after bases, they went after territorial contested lands. They're not going to homes, they're not going to shops, they're like it's all out in the public. So they're not
Don't you
actually
think a lot
targeting
of
babies and children. But when your mission is to target and kill civilians and babies and children outside of your own contested state and into their contested state, no, I don't think any Muslim scholar agrees with this, that this is actually something that Islam agrees with. No.
so even if Hamas didn't actually target women and children, did they not take them as war captives?
Yeah, yeah. So I believe Hamas, because they did not target women and children, and they targeted a base, an Israeli base, and they targeted contested lands. It's not like they're in Israel. They're in contested lands. They're in the outside the UN partition. Those are reasons that show me that they're actually resistance fighters, and this is proof when they take hostages. It's proof that they're not targeting civilians, because actually Israel has something called the Hannibal Doctrine, which just mows down any civilians around the area because they don't want Israelis to be taken as hostage.
Hold
But
on, they
in
take hostages or
but
war
in Hamas,
captives?
but Hamas, they took hostages and they took prisoners of war. I'm sure they took prisoners of war, but what it is they didn't want to kill the citizens, which this actually proved that they were not targeting citizens. They took them as
Are they
hostages, and I'm sure
slaves?
they attacked whoever was pointing weapons at them and stuff. And of course, we will say it's
Are they
wrong.
slaves?
Look, the problem is when these kids are dancing in a festival on contested land. To be honest, I don't
Are
know how
they
you can tell me
slaves?
that there's any to the Gazan or the Hamas. How can you tell me any of them are free from the sin of taking over their government or taking over their land? To the Hamasi, every one of them is a fighter that they have to resist against. When they're sitting there dancing in front of the Gaza border and fucking around while their kids are hungry and starving, yeah, to them there is no civilians there. There is no civilians in the contested lands. This is what you need to understand. That's Israeli's point too. That's Israeli's contention. Israel doesn't allow any Gazans to cross into the territories. No, even settlers will kill not even IDF settlers will kill them before the IDF gets to
So
them.
these women and children that were taken, did they end up becoming slaves?
No, 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 no. So there's rules against hostages, and I told this to Isaac. There used to be slavery. Islam and Quran abolished slavery and put rules against the people you have. So, for example, those hostages, they have to feed them from their own food. They have to make sure that they're taken care of and they're under their protection. Like if they have to make sure, like there's rules on these hostages. Like they cannot just make them sleep in dark rooms and not
So
give them food. And
how do you justify with Saudi Arabia when their whole one of their major things that they do is
how do I
like
justify
actual
Saudi
sex
Arabia doing
trafficking
what?
of slaves.
Sorry, how do I
Sex
justify?
trafficking of slaves. Sex trafficking of slaves.
Sorry, I need more information on that. What do you mean?
So in
What's
Saudi
sex trafficking?
Arabia,
I'm not sure what you're talking about. Maybe Isaac knows.
So I don't know exactly what he's referring to, but Saudi Arabia is like known. Here, let me just
I know
Saudi
they have
Arabia
maids.
is historically a known destination for men and women from Southeast Asia and East Africa trafficked for the purpose of labor exploitation and for children from Yemen, Afghanistan, and Africa for forced begging. Hundreds of thousands of low-skilled workers from Pakistan, India, Indonesia, the Philippines, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Ethiopia, Kenya migrate voluntarily to Saudi Arabia, while some fall into conditions of involuntary servitude, suffering from physical and sexual abuse.
Okay, so you're saying in like I'm not understanding. So the industry of this nanny industry is a sex trafficking industry. Like, there's
Yes.
proof on this?
Yes.
Interesting. So how do you want me to respond to this? Like, what do you want me to say? You're telling me is that wrong?
Is it incorrect to have slaves?
Yeah. So Islam abolished slavery. Islam completely abolished slavery. You cannot have slaves. You can have captives of war. You can have hostages, but you cannot have slaves. They don't live their whole life to serve you. That's not what their job is. Now, maybe what you're talking about is, I've heard about this. It's kind of like what internships here are in America are. It's a little bit more obviously. A little bit more extreme, but what it is they bring the nanny from an outside home. She lives with them for 2 to 3 years, and then she goes back and she has a salary every year. You could argue that's slavery, but if you argue that that is slavery, I can argue every job is a slavery
So
because every
so
job they
Saudi
take you out.
Arabia.
There's a lot of jobs that take you out of your home and they pay you for a long time, and then they send you back with nothing else except that money.
So whose view of slavery is correct then? Would you say Islamic? Like, I don't know exactly where you're from, right? And I don't know which one you thought, like the Sunni thought or the Shia thought. Like
No, no,
which one
so
is
no. You have okay. So Shia. Okay, no. Maybe other Muslims disagree with me, but I don't take anything that the Shia says as anything. I don't believe in anything the Shia says. The Shia, what they use is they use very weak hadith. They use very weak speeches. So I don't know what, I have no idea. To them, they can marry a woman with a rose. Like they've messed around the religion. They say I married you with this rose today. So basically he's in the club. He gives her a cup. He's like, I marry you with this little cup. So now he's married to her. So now he thinks he can have sex with her. Like this is something not real in the Islamic world. It's not allowed at all. But the Shias, they believe that that's totally allowed. So I disagree totally with them. So maybe that's where your contention is that there's
these are people who
misrepresentation.
make their.
Maybe I'm not Shi'i. We're talking Sunni. I don't even think the Shias are actually. I mean, they're Muslims, but they don't follow the teachings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
But they believe that they do actually follow the teachings and the Prophet of Muhammad, don't they?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's
they
their
do.
interpretation of the Quran.
Yeah, they believe the no, no, it's not the Quran. This is another contention Isaac had that he had a mistake on it. So we don't disagree with the Quran. The Quran is 100%. Nobody can read the Quran and disagree with it. The problem is what happens. We disagree with the Hadith. So what I told you with the Shia, for the Sunni, we don't take weak Hadith. We have to authenticate everything. We have to make sure that Prophet Muhammad said this. For the Shi'i, their scholars are studying and taking really weak hadiths that you can never authenticate. Hadiths came out of the words of people that were caught lying before. Hadiths that you can never trust. So these speeches that they say, we never trust them. So we never ever buy into them. So what happens is they add to their religion. So it's not that we defer in the Quran. We defer in the extra stuff above the Quran. Like we understand there's a God. We understand there's afterlife. We understand the basics. We need to get married stuff. But what we disagree on is how do you get married? What's those rituals look like? Is it you know what I mean? That we defer on the actual living of the life. We don't defer on the knowledge that we received. Like we don't defer like, oh, is the Quran the scripture? No, we all agree it's the scripture. But what happens is they read these extra books that we never look into, we never studied because they were never authenticated, and so they add to their
So
religion. But
one of
go
the
ahead. What's
things
your
that,
contention about them?
but I'm just saying, like one of the things that you would bash on me is that, like, hey, like about how even atheists can't, like decide on like what's the legal age of like, like of sex or marriage and all these kinds of questions. when even inside the Islamic community, like you have people that are also having their own subjective views on the Quran, or like what you're saying is like everything else afterwards, right? Stuff that's not actually stated in the Quran. So
Yeah, that's the human experience.
how can
The
you
human
attack me for
experience.
something like that when you have same stuff that's going on in your Islamic society? Like even inside your Islamic society, it's fractured.
Yeah, of course. You want to study and test out everything. You're not going to take the first thing you hear as gospel. So you're going to test out everything. So I understand why people are contending with it and asking questions. That's why I don't say you should never ask. Actually, I come in
So
and I
that's
actually argue
exactly
with
the
you.
same thing that, yeah, so that's the exact same thing that also happens in science, right? Like empirical data, like I will agree with you, is sometimes just not enough, right? Empirical data is there for you to have as data to read, and that's a good basis, but it's not the end all be all, right? Like if you start seeing that, like, hey, like high levels of, I don't know, women are having sex underage, like where exactly does the issue fall? Well, that's your data that you know that, like, hey, women are having high sex amount of numbers of, like, underage sex. But then what can you do forward with that? Then that's when you use it. So empirical data is not enough. Like that's something that I think we both can agree on. Like it's actually true.
Yeah, man, I think I don't know, man. I think there's no way
And
we
then
can
you're asking
agree
me if I'm
that
like, and then there's
your
also another thing where
contention.
you were
You're
talking about like
saying
where
that there's
exactly do I get
subjective.
my.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Well, like most of my morals that I'm also deriving from a lot of atheists is that, like, because you said like science actually doesn't care about morals and everything like that, but that's the whole reason, like even in higher education, we do have philosophy. Philosophy is literally about like the study of like life, about what's going on, about to like question
I know,
about
but
the
to
morals and ethics of everything that goes on in life. So we actually do study this.
so the problem is you don't have complete understanding of the topic of the Shia and the Sunni, so you're not clear on it. But the contentions we have are not contentions about the actual who's the authority of the world, who's the one that tells us what's right and wrong. The Shia, even though we disagree on how to get married, they agree we should get married. So it's actually a lot different. For example, I asked you, what's the age of consent? You told me it depends on an atheist and whatever. But the Muslim and the Shia and the Sunni will never tell you, oh, well, it depends on, I don't know, it depends on whichever Muslim you are. No, they're just going to tell you the age of consent is from puberty starts. So you're having a little bit, it's a little bit, you're a little bit misled that to think we're the same, we're not. So the Sunni and the Shia, they understand the truth. There's an objective thing that they believe in it, an entity that tells them, but they disagree on how to get that done. But you don't even agree on the most basic foundations of the actual society. How is it supposed to be? I don't even think atheists agree that marriage is good. I don't even think atheists agree altogether unanimously that marriage is something that we should be seeking. I don't think atheists agree altogether that
No.
we should
So
be having kids.
we're basically like on the same side of the coin, right? But for us, for atheists, it's like, hey, science is the objective truth, while philosophy and our personal decisions and everything like that, that's our subjective truth right
So my
then. So
question
the
is, if I
same way
want to
that
have
you
a
have that, like, hey, your objective truth is the Quran, the interpretations and everything else afterwards is your subjective.
So if I care about having like a lovely, healthy marriage, which one would I choose? Would I choose becoming atheist or would I choose to be Muslim? Like according to you and your
The
subjective
best way is
opinion,
to have an
scientifically speaking, about
actual,
those sites.
a good, actual, just like
I want to
family
have the
dynamic.
normal old class. You know what I'm old school, just sitting in my home. I have a lovely, healthy marriage. My wife cooks. I go out. You know what I mean. I axe some wood, bring it back home, turn on the fire. I got kids running around the house helping their mom clean. I want that. How do I achieve that? Do I go into an atheistic and live in an atheistic society, or do I go fall back into a more religious and really Islamically rooted society?
Just as long as, at the very least, at the minimum, there should be two adults. Two adults has been shown that, like, hey, that is the best way to raise a child.
So you don't even think it has to be a man and a woman.
No, two adults.
So my question is, where do you derive this morality from? Like, how do you know that what you're saying is right? Scientific theory
Uh, no, it is also
or
scientifically done that,
conditioning?
like, the family dynamic should be from two adults, right? But then it's also from personal experience, because I've been close with other people who actually have been either raised in a lesbian like in a lesbian family or in a gay family.
Okay, okay. So anecdotal experience and a little bit of science.
Yes.
So your anecdotal experience tells you that
In a
sodomy is
two
good for
adult,
you.
in
Sodomy
a
is good
two
for the society.
sodomy. Wait, no, sodomy is something else completely different, isn't it?
Well, I know sodomy is like when the thing goes into the
So,
butt.
yeah, that's just the sexual preference.
Sorry? Yeah. But you actually agree that it could be good for your society.
If it's safe,
Like, yeah, if it's
I
safe,
don't
you allow it
understand
in
what
the
this has to do
society.
with the. What does this have to do with family traditions?
What family traditions? What family traditions are you talking about?
We're talking about the family dynamics, right? Two adults to raise a child. What does that have to
I
do
know,
with
but I'm telling
sodomy?
you, so how do you agree with two adults? Okay, but how do the adults where where's the science that proves that two adults is enough to raise a child? Didn't we all, man, the problem is it's really hard to talk to you because it's all like preconceived conditioning. There's no real, you're not bringing me proof scientifically speaking. Like, for example, like I'm asking you, why is it okay for two adults to carry and take care of the child? You give me an anecdotal experience. You told me because my friend was gay and he came out normal. To me, I believe it creates a lot of corruption in the mind of the kid and can really create a lot of misunderstanding and presumptions. Look at Isaac. But what I'm telling you is, do you agree
I
with
think
me
that's
though
him
that
and his two fathers right there.
heteronormativity? Do you agree with me that heteronormativity is actually essential for society?
No.
You don't agree that heteronormativity is essential. How do you have babies then to take care of them? Like if the whole society is the same sex, how do you even get babies?
I mean, if the whole society is the whole sex, then I don't understand how like humankind even got to that point. That's an extreme
'Cause
example of
what I'm
like,
trying to get
if it's
to
just all
is
males, that doesn't even work.
that's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you, your society can never work. If you just use your whims, you're never thinking about the bigger picture. So my society actually thinks about the bigger picture from the beginning. Says from the beginning, it's immoral to be with your sister. From the beginning, it's immoral to commit any lying. From the beginning, it's immoral to cheat because it ruins this society. It creates a lot of hardships for your opponents. For you, you don't have a reason why lying is wrong. You don't have, besides your whim and your desire and how you feel, there is no reason why being with your sister is wrong. You gave me a couple example. I guess you said, well, because of the genetic mutation. Well, I'll tell you, there's no more genetic mutation. They've scientifically edited all genetic mutation out of the body using genetic genome editing, and it's all in the computer. You don't have to do anything anymore. You thought it was like a surgery or anything. It's not a pill or anything. It's just all in the computer. They tap into the genome and edit it immediately from the cell. And you
I
said that
mean,
so you cannot actually disagree with it.
no. I mean, there's other ways to also copulate, right? Like besides just natural sex, there's also like
Oh,
insemination, right? You can have a surrogate mother. You can have, the father's sperm implanted to someone else. You can have the egg implanted to someone else. There's also IVF, in vitro. Like there's other options as well to still copulate.
so in your society,
Copulate?
because everybody is same sex, so what happens is you start creating new technologies to fix that issue that you just created. Because now there's so much same sex, so you're going to create basically an
I think
artificial
that's a
womb.
wild take to that's a wild assumption to take right there. Like your stance is saying that like, hey, these things were created because of same-sex marriage, when also a lot of these other things were created because like, hey, there must have been a woman who had complications, she wasn't able to have a child. So they're trying to find like, hey, scientifically, what's a good way in order for this woman to have a child, or at least this woman to be able to have children, maybe with her eggs, maybe there's something going on with her body, there's something going on, right? So to make the assumption that like, hey, it's just because of same-sex people that like these things were invented, that's a crazy assumption to make.
Okay. That's very interesting, man. That's very interesting. So you're actually cool. So you're acting like there is but my question is, we've never seen this happen before. We've never seen women needing artificial wombs. It's clear as day that this is for the change of the demographic. So, like, why are we acting like this is a necessity today to create this artificial womb for that woman when it never was a necessity before?
But there, as we mentioned before, like there possibly was necessities. Like there are women who
And
can't
do you,
have children.
well, then, do you agree with me that if the artificial womb becomes extremely popular, that they might actually outlaw natural pregnancy because it's
I'm
just
not
too
sure
dangerous
about
for women?
outlawing does not make sense to me. Like the outlaw doesn't make sense because we've been already naturally been doing it for hundreds and millions of years. Like that's just a natural way to actually do it. Like that's the natural way, right? But for the women who don't have that option of having natural birth, there's other options for women, right? One of the issues that there is too with like in vitro or like infertilization that way is that like, hey, it takes 9 months to be in some other woman's body, right? So what if there was a way that like, hey, a woman could go ahead and create a child of their own using their own eggs, using their partner's sperm, and go ahead and make a baby out of that? Like, what's wrong with that? What's the issue?
No, no. I mean that we believe that there's everything wrong in that because if it can become widespread, and if it becomes widespread, then women would actually prefer to do artificial insemination over the actual womb. And this is
I mean,
happening right now. For
possibly,
example,
right?
in
I
today's
mean,
age.
I us men will never have to experience childbirth, and I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of women that if they had the chance, to not experience childbirth, they would not want to.
Okay, let me ask you this. Us men, we have a lot of muscles, but and we had to use them back in the day, but now let's say you don't use the muscle anymore. What happens to the man? He never carried anything heavy in his life. What happens to the man? Does he grow strong and admirable and just like his old ancestors were? Or does he grow weak and kind of skinny and useless?
But even in scientifically, right? Like the thing is, like you should actually do some physical labor. You do need to work out. Like that's the whole reason, like why even like astronauts when they go into space, like they still have to work out. They have to find different methods of doing it, or else their body starts to deteriorate. Like this is actually true.
Yeah,
Like
but
people can deteriorate if you don't do anything.
your society is pulling people away from that. Your society is saying working out too much is wrong because it makes people feel uncomfortable. You should always care about people's feelings. It's always what matters is how people feel. So we're gonna give them as much medication as necessary to make sure they feel happy. That's what your society does. It's
Society does
over
that because
focused.
of yeah, but that's because of lack of actual understanding of people, right? Like they don't have what's the word I'm going to be thinking about? It's a mixture of like they don't have good scientific basis, right? Like should you not like talk down or discriminate people? Yes, of course, because we've seen studies that like hey, it actually is harmful to other people that like if they get talked down to or anything like that too much. I understand that. Now, is there a case for like hey, like people are going to become too soft and everything like that? I mean, subjectively, I believe that is true. Right?
Yeah, but
But and then there's all
your community is making sure that that happens. Your community is babying everybody, and they're saying it's because it's for your own good, it's for your benefit. And so, why do you think it sounds far fetched to me to think that, oh, if it's for my benefit, they're gonna vaccinate the shit out of me. If it's for my benefit, they're just gonna fucking try to cut off my testosterone muscles and succumb me to little bit of testosterone. Literally in the WF
what's
right now,
wrong with
they're talking about
vaccination?
genetically editing red meat out of you, like so you because of climate change. So all they need is to throw out a catastrophe in your face, like they've done with COVID, and you give them your whole body. Your whole body is given to them. You're gonna give them everything. What's your argument against that? That you give them
Wait,
your
so
body to
like
test it, screen it, to put whatever they want in it. All they have to do is call out an emergency, and you're gonna fall in line.
I don't understand what the issue is with like if I voluntarily go ahead and like, hey, I want my body to be used as like a study or anything like that. What's wrong with that?
No, I'm proving to you that the artificial womb can create a catastrophe and make the artificial womb a necessity for humankind, not something that's just desirable. Or
That's like
like I
along the
said, from
same
my
lines of like,
argumentation, it becomes a misogynistic practice to even get a woman pregnant. Like your atheistic society is getting rid of all more values, all traditional values that we cared about, the values of family, having a big family around you. Now nobody cares about that in the atheistic society. They have all the social media giving them everything they need. The value of being healthy and strong, that doesn't matter now. You just pharmaceutically shove everything you need to assist you with whatever you're missing. There's no sanctity to the human body. You guys are allowed tattoos. Like there's a lot of problems in the society that you have not addressed from my opening statement.
so another issue that I kind of find that like that's actually pretty interesting is
So you're just not
how
going to address my opening statement at all. The whole time. You've just been asking me about Islam and weird things about you misjudging or being misguided, but we didn't even discuss my opening statement at all.
well, I was gonna about to say to that, like how so it's along the same things of like the same kind of fear with like AI. Like what exactly is AI gonna do in the future, right? Do you actually believe that it's gonna become like a Matrix level, like hey, like that's gonna happen, or that it's gonna happen like in the Terminator, right? That like
It's
machines
actually
are just gonna
happening
take
right
over.
now in China. They use AI guided data sets to go sift through data to give them patterns of behavior of who is doing something weird. Like so for example, they'll have a camera out and then they'll start routing every camera, literally routing the paces of everybody. And so with one button, that the camera will tell you exactly what house is being like, for example, visited the most, and then they can see if there's any drug trafficking happening there. The AI can get you a lot of information. AI can tell you using a camera which house here is being visited the most. You don't even have to put the time anymore. So you're thinking
You
about
heard of the
AI like
extremes?
robotically controlled mechanisms.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure, maybe that's in the future. But right now, AI is using the data set they're shoving in to come up with amazing projections of who the patterns of next crimes that are going to happen. And it's happening right now in China, and they're going after these people. They're getting search warrants. Actually, it's happening here in America. They're getting search warrants based on camera infrared signals that tells them which house is being visited the most. They're thinking this is a drug trafficking shop market.
yeah, but they're also gonna go into those places because they already had reasons to begin with that like, hey, there might be some issues into this house. Then they start implementing those AI tactics and everything like that.
Actually, that's
Technology
not
isn't just
proven.
being
That's
used.
not proven, actually. And actually, that's my argument. In Islam, people leave you alone until you make the mistake. Like, for example, yeah, being gay is wrong in Islam, but if you are gay your whole life, but you just never acted upon it, it's not a problem for Islam. They don't care about what you're thinking about. They actually only care about the actions you do because that's what is society. So
That's a whole
actually,
different
we will
argument right
never
there.
go chasing around
Is it that they
looking
don't
for the
care or
next
they're
guy.
scared to even say
Look, we,
anything?
we would be
Do
looking
they
to
actually
guide.
care or are they
We would
scared?
knock on doors like Jehovah's Witness, but we would not be looking for crimes to put people in jail. That's what your society is doing today, using AI
Okay, but
technology.
if I was, let's just say in this thought experiment that like I'm a Muslim, right? And I'm just streaming on this same website, right? And I live in Iran and I go ahead and state that like, hey, I'm an atheist. What happened to me? I haven't done anything wrong, right? I'm just stating I'm an atheist.
Dude, what's gonna happen? Iran? I don't know about Iran. I guess Iran. Well, if you're gonna walk around, hey, I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. I don't know. Maybe
No,
people
no,
will
no.
have
Obviously
problems
on
with you.
Twitch. On
But I'm
Twitch.
sure
Like I
there's
said, on this
people
thought
that walk
experiment, I'm
around
on
doing everything. Nobody talks to them. I don't think anybody like somebody has to be. It's like the N word. Somebody has to be bothered. Yeah, you can walk around saying the N word theoretically. Like theoretically, you shouldn't be doing. But if you walk around, you could do it. It's somebody has to be bothered enough to come and tackle you and deal with you. But it's gonna be very rare. So it's the same thing. Like you can walk around saying I'm atheist. I mean, somebody has to be bothered by
how
it. Like it's
how
not
many
gonna be
people
something.
actually, yeah, but it's like how many people actually state that they're an atheist and how many people are actually scared to claim that they're an atheist? That's what
Why
I'm
would
trying to
you?
get at.
I don't get it. Like, I don't sit here in an atheistic society, walking around the society saying, I'm a Muslim, you're an atheist. I'm a Muslim, you're an atheist. I'm a Muslim. I don't do that. I don't understand what do you mean by claiming they're atheist. Like, what do you mean? Like, that's how I'm saying. When you say I don't run around claiming you're an atheist, and that's what I'm saying. You're like walking around running saying I'm atheist. I mean, like, I don't think you can even do that in America. You're not going to be doing that in America. But
I
so
mean,
I don't know how you would
I
be
have plenty of
walking
people who ask
around
me
saying I'm
what.
atheist. I'm atheist.
I actually have had plenty of people, especially on Twitch, ask me what my religious affiliation was.
That's fine, yeah. And then you say it's atheist, and then they're like, "Oh, okay, then I'm gonna stay away from you." Or, "Okay, I'm interested in you," but they're not gonna be attacking you. Like, they're not gonna try to get rid of you from the society. I never seen that in my lives. I don't know if you've seen that in Iran. See, this is the problem: is I'm arguing with
So
misconceptions. I'm almost like arguing with one of
there
those.
actually was a case, and let me see. I actually do have it saved up somewhere for apostasy. Let me see if I can find it. So Raif bin Mohammed Badawi. So actually let's see, in 2012, he was on a charge of insulting Islam through electronic channels, which is pretty much something along the lines of this, brought to court on several charges, including apostasy. So in 2013, he was convicted of several charges and sentenced to 7 years in prison and 600 lashes. In 2014, his sentence was increased to 10 years in prison, 1,000 lashes, and a fine of 1 million Saudi riyals. The flogging was to be carried out over 20 weeks and so on and so forth. But basically, this guy who did claim that he was an atheist did get sent to prison, and he hasn't been killed yet, but he also has been punished to death.
So where was this happening? So he hasn't been killed, but he was punched to death.
He was a Saudi writer.
He's
He's the
gay.
creator of the. No, he's an atheist.
Okay, so Saudi Arabia, that means he was writing about it and like basically making a mass thing. Yeah, so yeah, like I said, if you're shutting up and just be quiet, nobody deals with you. But if you're
No, that's
gonna
what I'm
be
saying.
out
Like,
there
so is
yelling
it more
out
that
Islam is
people?
fake and atheism is the truth, they're gonna tell you, man, why are you? It's like the same in America. You know, maybe you're right. A book is a little bit too extreme to write a book and then kick somebody out. I agree with you. I'm not like
Well, he wasn't
support.
just kicked out. Like, this guy was in prison. He's gotten lashes. He's
Yeah, but that
like,
doesn't stand. That's not Islam. I want you to like. Okay,
but
look,
these are
that's not
people that
Islam.
follow Islamic culture, right? These are the same people that follow the same teachings that you do. It's just interpreted in a different way when it comes to every other sources outside the Quran. But these are still people in the Islamic
Yeah, but
society
then that
that
means you
are
can blame
carrying
me
this
for
out.
what the Shias are doing. Are you gonna blame me for what the Christians are doing? I mean, what is this? I mean, we got to talk about what really is happening. Like, we got to talk about the scriptures. Show me the proof
So
that tells you that Saudi Arabia was accurate in doing so because the Quran allowed it to do so. Tell me where is
the
the
issue
speech,
comes
the hadith that
the issue
Prophet
also comes
Muhammad
down
says
to the, like, hey,
you
that
should
people
you should
use
love
religious
everybody in the
doctrines
society
and they
for
use
that.
it
You're
incorrectly.
not proving.
The
You're
way
just
that
saying that a Muslim country is got upset because this prolific writer. Yeah, it's a government. It's allowed to be upset. Look at what they did to Julian Assange. All he did was shoot out one freaking video or post one website, and he's in prison for the rest of his life. So what? I'm supposed to be completely anti-America for that, and this is all against atheism and secularism is bad. No, I'm not going to say stuff like that. I'm going to talk about the actual facts of the matter. I'm going to say, well, I think it was George W. Bush was, or I think it was Obama actually that shoved him in. He was very unjust in what he was doing until now they got him outside. That's how I would do it. So there's a lot of people that are getting unjustly put in prison all the time, even in the atheistic society that you love so much. I give you an example, Julian Assange. That doesn't mean the whole atheist society is just trash and should be crumbled down. It's a fault of the actual government. It's not fault of the society itself or you know what I mean, the religion. So you have to bring me the actual hadith that allows for something like that to happen, and then we can argue about that. But you're bringing me, oh, Saudi Arabia cut off heads. Okay, what am I supposed to do? Like how? I don't know. I don't even know if it's allowed to cut off heads in Islam anymore. I really don't believe so. I don't think. I don't think scholars are unanimous in this. Maybe they are. You have to be like a religious country. Like you have to be an Islamic state and Saudi Arabia is an Islamic state. The problem is their government is weird. The government allows cinemas now. The government allows drinking alcohol in Saudi Arabia. This never was acceptable before. So how can you say this is an extremely Muslim country, but now they're allowing alcohol, now they're allowing cinemas, now they're allowing clubs, and what's Muslim about this country? I don't see it. Yeah, okay, maybe they. I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, the problem is we're talking about misconceptions. We're not talking about the actual hadith, the actual scripture that you're discontented with. We're just talking about in general.
The issue
Whereas
comes
I'm
down
actually
to
telling you the actual atheistic, like actual view is that incest is not wrong. The actual view objectively of the atheist
we have
is
to say
that they
that
can be with
incest is
anybody they want and marriage is not sacred. The actual view of the atheist that tattoos are allowed in your body because nobody cares about the sanctity of the body. Those are the arguments. My argument is that soon they will genetically edit red meat out of you, and every atheist has to accept this because it's a climate catastrophe, and this is the only way we can slow down this climate catastrophe. And you're going to follow in line. You're not going to say no because you've never said no to anything else before that. And I tested
I
you.
have stated that incest is incorrect. I have stated that actually.
Yeah, but I challenged you and you failed on it.
No, I have stated it. You're giving me a thought experiment for the future, right? What could happen in a society that is like either going on with technologies like super
10
advanced
years.
or the AI and all this kind of stuff,
10
right?
years, they will be
But
able to genetically
it's not the
edit
fact of the
mutation
matter
out.
now. It's not the fact of the matter now. So right now we are saying, hey, incest is actually incorrect. We have stated that. I have stated that, hey, family tradition is okay when it comes to two adults in the dynamic. I have stated that as well.
Okay, man. No, yeah, you stated it, but that's not enough for me. That's not enough. I want the actual proof from your doctrine that incest is wrong. Not only because I find a solution for it in the future. No, I want the proof. Why is it wrong to be incest? Why is it wrong to be with my dog? Why is it wrong for me to do drugs? Why is it wrong for me to do anything in your society? You have never explained why. There's no explanation for why things are besides their consequences, and that's not enough. I don't know how anybody in the atheistic society is happy with this answer. The consequence of the action is what makes the action wrong. So murder is only wrong based on its consequence.
You're asking why the consequence is incorrect for like incest? Like I've already told you why, right? I told you about like, hey,
You said because
genes
of
get
genetic
fucked up.
mutations. I told you we
Yeah.
edit those genetic mutations. But yeah, but you didn't give me. It's a filthy act that should never be done because a sister and a brother are a holy companion. They're in front of God. You never give me anything like that. All you said was genetic mutations. Okay, and I answered you. I said, okay, well, no more genetic mutations. The scientific community found out how to get rid of genetic mutations. Now what?
And I've also said that subjectively, it's also incorrect. I gave you both of my answers, objective and subjective.
No, I want an actual answer. No, you didn't give me an objective one. Why is it wrong? Okay, you go ahead. Give me the answer again. Why is it wrong?
Objectively, genes. Subjectively, it's incorrect. It's immoral.
Why? Why is it incorrect? Why is it incorrect? If I can cut off my dick today, that's not incorrect. Why is me fucking my sister incorrect? Explain. Explain the difference.
Correct. It's not correct, and it's also
Why?
based off my objective truth, which is like, hey, like the genes get fucked up. It's not good. It's not good for the progression of humankind.
Exactly. So the only reason it's not good is because genes get fucked up. It's not good for the progression of the humankind. Other than that, you have no excuse.
Objectively, yes.
No, you don't have another one. That's it. That's it. Your only answer is because of genetic mutation. You have no other answer.
And also because I feel that it's incorrect.
Why do you feel like it's incorrect? And why should I care about your feeling? And does the atheistic community cares about? Does the atheistic community care about what you feel?
Possibly. I don't know.
No, I'm asking. Okay, I'm not asking you about what you feel. I'm asking you about the atheistic society. Would they agree that being with your sister is wrong, and why if it's not for genetic mutation? Give me another reason.
Just because of the way that was brought up, like the way that my family raised me, the kind of values that I've been introduced to, and also because of societal norms. So it's incorrect.
Yeah, go ahead, explain it one more time. Societal norm?
Societal norms, yes.
So it's against society. That's enough for you? It suffices? Everybody's
Yeah, like
watching you, by the way.
with my traditions and with my values.
There's a lot
yes,
of people
everything
watching
else.
you for this answer. They want to know the answer to incest is wrong.
Like I said, scientifically, it's incorrect because of genes. Yes.
It's incorrect because of genes. I explained to you your scientific community is working on editing those genomic mutations out of existence. Now, why is it wrong? They're actually working
Because
on it
of
right
my
now. They're working on
because
editing the
of my
genomic.
because of my family traditions and because of my values, my inherent values, my own
Where
morals
do you
that I
get
have
those values
inside,
from? From your society, or is it from your
from
another
everything,
society, like a more religious one?
from everything around me. It's not just my inherent values that I have inside. That's like I'm processing stuff, right? I'm having these rational thoughts. I'm having these critical thinking. It's not just beyond that, right? It's also the way that I was raised up from my family. It's also from my friends. It's also from those who are close to
Yeah,
me.
but
It's
does your
also just
society agree
taking
with you?
concepts from philosophy as well. It's like there's a bunch of different stuff that make up who I am and how I feel the way I feel.
Yeah, but what does your society think about this? What does your society think about incest, and why do they think it's wrong?
That it's incorrect. They think it's incorrect, and then we can say that like, hey, that the reason for it being incorrect as well is because of scientifically it's incorrect. That's what I'm saying.
That's fine. And that's fine. Okay, so you concede to me. You actually concede. You have no way to say why incest is wrong. I'll give you another one. Why is lying wrong? And these are basic, normal morality
Wait,
questions. I mean, come on, a kid can answer these questions. But
just
go ahead.
wait, just to clarify, he did give you why it was wrong, though. He said it was because of the gene problem that
Yeah,
happens.
but
I
I'm
just
telling
keep
him.
saying it over
True,
and
but
over and
I'm
over
when
telling
and
him
over
you
they're
again. I just
editing.
keep
I'm telling
repeating
him they're working
myself.
on a solution for that. I'm telling him they're working on right now. The scientific community right now, within 5 to 10 years, they will have a genetic editing program that edits mutations, genetic mutations out of existence, like baldness, blindness. These undesirable traits, they're going to be edited out of existence. I'm trying to understand why is
do you,
this wrong for the atheist. I don't think they have an answer for that. Why? So if your answer is the consequence makes the action wrong. So let's say we fix all the consequences. There are no good bad consequences anymore. All the consequences are only pleasure and happiness, and everybody consented. Isaac, you see what I'm going to? It's all pleasure. We all consented, and we all agreed with this. Why is it wrong that I'm with my sister and give her a baby? Why? Why is it wrong? If it's not gonna create a genetic mutation to the atheist, to the Muslim, he knows it's wrong because his God told him it's wrong. But what about the atheist? Who told you it's wrong?
But
Why is it
but it
wrong?
also
And why
also
will
in
we
your
not see this in the future?
but also in your thought experiment, you're also saying that like everything is okay now, right? So like
You're
now
saying
all
it's a
we
thought
really have to worry
experiment. It's
about.
really not a thought experiment. I mean, this is happening right
But
now.
that's what you're
Genetic
saying. That
mutations
is,
and genetic
it's
editing
not
is
the way
happening
it is
today.
now, so it is a thought experiment. It actually
Okay,
is.
but when I think
If
about
it's
thought
not
experiment, I'm
happening
thinking about
now,
something that
it
will never
is.
exist in the reality. But this is something that will happen in 10 years. Yeah, maybe we didn't catch up to it today, but it's like a phone, you know, it's so fast. The technology is there. They just need to put it together.
A lot of people also thought that like a couple years ago, they're like, hey, we're gonna have like flying transportation vehicles, and that hasn't happened. The closest thing that we've gone to is helicopters,
So
but
your
people
only
don't use
contention
helicopters.
So your only
It's like we
contention,
can't save
okay,
that.
I'll take it. I'll take it from you. So your only contention that it's wrong to be with your sister is it creates genetic mutations. That's it.
Yes.
That's it.
well,
Nothing
and
That's
else
the
is
not
wrong.
and
just
his
it.
societal
That's the
upbringing.
objective
He
truth.
has
That's the
two. He has his
objective.
societal upbringing, and he has the mutations that come from it.
Yes.
Okay, so that's it. So the only bad thing. So it's actually not bad to be with your mom. It's not bad to be with your sister. It's only because it's a problem. That's why it's bad.
What do you mean when you say that?
That is something
So
wrong. What do you mean? That
no,
is
no, no.
something
Because
wrong.
let's say it didn't create a genetic mutation. Let's say you've proven that it doesn't create genetic mutation. You have no other argument against that.
If that were the
Let's say I've
case,
proven to you it doesn't
especially
create
if it's
genetic
happened through
mutation.
evolution, then we would have been doing it, and that would have been our societal norm.
No,
But
no.
it's
Let's say
not
it's
the
like
societal
but it's like
norm.
gay. It's like gay sex. It's like gay sex. We figured that we. It turns out that you can actually create no problems with it, and you would never have an issue. And if you have gay sex, we used to think that it makes disease. Now we think it's totally cool. We calmed it down. Now it's okay. Okay, it used to be. Like, for example, what's your problem against sodomy then? Okay, you're going to tell me it creates diseases. Well, now there's no more disease. What's your other problem against sodomy? That's what I'm telling you. Like, your consequences are what's shaping your reality. And let's say we get rid of all these bad consequences, we only make it a blissful experience. Give me a reason why it shouldn't be in your reality. You can't. Why? I'll give you something easier. Why is lying? Sorry, 1 second, guys. Why is lying wrong in your in an atheistic society? Why is lying wrong?
Lying is incorrect because it doesn't give all the actual. It's going to be like in the scientific community. Everything has to be peer reviewed, and like when scientists actually speak to each other, they are kind of forming this basis that like, hey, everything that I'm putting, like all this data and everything like that, is true. Because if it's incorrect, it sets up everything for failure, right? If you lie or make up numbers on anything, it does not work for society. It does not work for other people man to man. So that's why lying isn't good. Lying isn't good because it doesn't give you all the facts up front, and then so people can make bad choices out of that. Only one person benefits from a lie, right?
Yeah, but there's nothing inherently wrong about lying. It's only because it creates a problem for society that's wrong, right?
That is wrong. What do you mean? That is
Yeah, so
wrong.
let's say, for example, I lie not to hurt society, but to save myself. Like, let's say I'm lying out of a speed ticket. Is that wrong? Yeah, officer. No, I
I mean, if
wasn't
you're
driving 100
speeding, you're
miles an
still
hour.
gonna get a ticket.
I was only driving 70 miles an hour, officer.
Yeah, but they're gonna go ahead and pull you down and state the fact that like, yeah, we clocked you in at 100, so
He didn't clock
you
me,
can
and I was
lie.
able to
Doesn't mean
save
it's always
myself
gonna
from a
work.
ticket. Why is it wrong? He didn't clock me. He forgot to calibrate his thing, and he couldn't catch me, and it didn't hurt society. I just now can drive safe without having to pay a fine. Why was lying wrong there?
Wait, when you say though it didn't hurt society, speeding inherently damages society. Let me just point that out. That's like the danger of it. But
Like,
his
there's
hypothetical
Actually,
still
are you
stands though.
sure? Are you sure about that? I don't think that the inherent act of
Speeding,
speeding is what hurts it. I think excessive speeding
No,
into losing control is what
yeah,
makes it wrong.
exactly, which is
Yeah,
by
but if
speeding.
I'm a NASCAR racer, then it would be good for me to speed. If I'm really
But
good
not,
and controlling.
but that's because that's actually an establishment meant for going fast.
for
That's not,
every
you can't compare that
No,
to
I'm
like
saying
actual
I'm a
normal
gangster.
society.
I'm saying I'm a gangster. I don't drift. I don't make mistakes. Everything I do is calculated. I don't make mistakes. I've lived with
But
cars my whole
your
life.
place,
Speeding
you
doesn't hurt
can't
me.
do that. Doesn't matter if you're like the best NASCAR driver and then you start speeding in a society because other people around you don't have that same capability. That's why there's speed limits, right?
Yeah,
That's why if you're gonna
if
want
I
to be
don't
speed
affect
fast and everything like that, you go to an institution or organization that does actually have fast cars. I don't
Okay,
understand what
you're
you're trying to
talking
go with
about an
this.
example where you think me I'm driving next to cars. I'm just driving speed to the hospital to go see my mom who is in danger. There's no cars in the road. Why was that wrong for me to speed? I didn't cause an accident, and I got to my mom ASAP, and I was able to take care of her in the hospital and answer any questions that was necessary. Why was that wrong?
so
If your mom is
statistically,
in a
for every 10 miles,
sorry,
this is just a statistic to point out. For every 10 miles of increased speed, the risk of dying in a crash doubles. So increasing speed from 60 miles per hour to 80 increases the risk of a fatal crash by 4 times.
yeah, and
Yeah, and
then you're
also
asking.
indulging in drugs can also increase the risk. But I don't think atheists think that doing drugs is wrong. Is doing drugs wrong in atheist society? That can increase death rates.
Yeah, so doing drugs is actually bad. Like it actually is bad. But the
Why?
issue comes because it literally damages your body and it could also damage others, right? So if you're like someone who's like a meth head or someone who's taking these kinds of like, other intoxicants, you can be a risk to other members of society.
So what principle are you using? Are you talking about like the harm principle? What principle do you use to come up with your morality?
Wait, so we're still going on about what are we going on to now?
No, I'm
What's
trying to
the
understand how. What do you mean? Like you said that it harms you, it harms
you
your
asked me
body.
if doing
No,
drugs
my
you asked me if
understanding of the
doing
harm
drugs is bad
principle.
and
Let
I
me
said
finish it. No,
yes.
you asked me. Let me finish. My understanding of the harm principle is the actual action doesn't matter. It's the consequence of the action. That's why it's wrong. So the harm principle, according to John Stuart Mill, it's not wrong to overindulge in drugs. It's only wrong to overindulge in drugs so much that it causes you to steer your car into another person and hurt them. That's the wrong. So I don't think you're even using the harm principle when you come up with these conclusions. You're just using your subjective understanding. So I don't think atheists agree with you with what you're saying. These things are wrong for. So the harm principle, according to John Stuart Mill, you can hurt yourself as much as you want. That doesn't matter to the fucking society. They don't give a fuck.
But
It's
it
only
does
when you
matter.
start affecting others. No. Actually, it doesn't. Look at John Stuart Mill. He doesn't care.
But
Atheist
remember,
society doesn't care about you.
in the atheist part of society, they don't have a doctrine which they refer to get a general understanding of their morality.
Yeah,
They form
that's
their
the
own.
other part too, is that we take snippets of like, hey, what's the best of like what people are saying, or what's the best of everything, right? Like we don't. That's the thing about religious doctrine, right? That's what I'm trying to get at. The main issue is that like religious doctrine, this tells you how you should set out your life. This is how you should live your life. While an atheist person says like, hey, like there is no specific doctrine that tells us exactly how we should live our lives, but we should evolve together, and we should communicate with other people who have share their experiences to like, hey, what's the best way that we can all benefit?
I
from
disagree.
each
I
other?
think there is a doctrine, and I think it's the harm principle and the pleasure principle. If you talk to any atheist, that's where they agree on.
You're talking to one atheist right now, and no, I
You
don't
don't
follow this.
agree with the pleasure principle or the harm principle that guides your
I can
morality?
probably agree on some parts of it,
What do you
but
mean
do
you
I
only
take
agree
this
on
as my
some?
whole doctrine? Like, I don't follow the harm principle to the T. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's like me. I'm saying I say I follow the Quran, but only in certain places. Like for example, when it says don't
Yes,
take
but
slaves, I like to take
your
slaves.
religion says that you have to follow the Quran, right? Because if you go against the Quran, you're going against the word of God. I don't have that sort of doctrine.
So if you can't follow the actual findings, the founding fathers of your actual think tank, if you can't even understand what they were coming from, how do you know what you're even studying? How do you know? Why do you even support their movement? Like for example, you probably don't even know that John Stuart Mill, the founder of liberal thinking, the founder of utilitarianism and liberalism, is extremely racist. You probably didn't even know this. So why are you following him if you don't even know what he believes in? You don't even believe in his intentions.
There's a lot of people who have probably done very bad harm or have done indecent acts. It doesn't make what certain parts of what they say incorrect.
All right, but my bottom line is you are different than any other atheist that I'm talking to. You actually will disagree with other atheists, and other atheists will disagree with you because you are using your own subjective opinion. Maybe that's how atheists do it in general, which is another guide why, and another point for me that you guys all just use your subjective view, and so every atheistic society is going to look different than any other society. Now, I agree with you. There's a difference between Sunni and Shia, like the Christian and Muslim. This is a different debate we can talk about. Now, what we're talking about is which one is actually better for the most basic foundation of society. And just from there, just knowing that you use complete subjective morality and a
No.
little bit of guided principle, a little bit of guided principles, but mostly subjective morality. That's very scary to me. How is anybody that's watching you supposed to follow you? Let's say they disagree with you on one of those stances. Are they supposed to leave the religion, or are they actually allowed to keep that? Sorry, I said religion, but atheism basically. Are they? Did they leave atheism because they disagree with you? Like, let's say somebody says it's okay to be with my sister. Now, how do you deal with them from the
We
atheistic
talk about
community?
it. We have a discussion, and then we bring everything to the table as to like, hey, like,
I know,
why
but there's no
exactly is it that
standard.
you
There's
think this
no
way? And then
scripture to go fall back on. Like, this is what the Quran is for. That's why we know the Shias are wrong, is because when we
but
fall
that's
back on the
incorrect
scripture
too.
and we
That's an
fall back on the
incorrect way
hadith,
to think, is that like, how can you follow something that happened 1600 years ago when at the time it probably was beneficial for the people around to follow that kind of scripture, but how does that evolve with how it is with modern times? Did people have to deal with AI stuff back then? No. Did people have to deal with insemination back then? No. Did people have to deal with the internet back then? No. So how does this evolve with now?
I think that's a totally different argument, or I think that's a different debate. But sure, I'll indulge here. The way it
But that
evolves,
that
it's already
that has to
evolved.
do with the debate, right? Because we're talking about like Islamic society and atheist society, right? Atheistic evolves with time. It takes in the principles of stuff that happened in the past, but also tries to keep up with current times. Now we have Islamic society, which is like, hey, their doctrine is set that like, hey, these are the rules, right? This is the will of God. This is what we have to follow by. But then when it comes to modern times, how do we interpret it so that it fits with modern times? Like, how do you deal with it when it comes with stuff with the internet?
I'll give you
How
an
do we deal with
example.
it with like,
Yeah, for example, just because something is modern doesn't mean it's genius or smart. For example, like Chinese medicine, hundreds of years old, better than most modern medicines. Just because something is
some
modern
stuff?
doesn't mean it's better.
Some
Okay.
stuff, not all, some stuff.
In
Because
general,
like remember, you
medicine, whoever knows the medicine knows it, and whoever doesn't know it doesn't know it. In general, when it comes to medicine, if you know the cure, you know it. If you don't know the cure, you're stuck. So in general, it's like that with everything. But when it comes to medicine, but so yeah, I agree with you. Not everything is solved, but we agree that there's some Chinese medicine, some Chinese rituals, some Chinese healing properties that they used to do maybe 1,000 years ago that are still effective today. So that doesn't
yes.
prove just because it's a modern value or something we're doing in the modern world that doesn't mean it's better than the old world. First of all, that's my first part. Second
Yeah.
part, second part here is the Islam I believe in is always so I think what happens is God created us in this world and he created this world around us, so we actually are always basically have to be connected to this world. So as long as we connect with nature, everything is okay. So we get our food from nature, we can shelter in nature, we can get our water, our medicine in nature, we can get everything we need from nature. What happens is when you start drifting away from that, you can actually create a lot of problems for you. So when, like for example, living in cities now is creating a lot of depression, a lot of depressive states. So just because something is modern, something is new that never been seen before, doesn't mean it's better than the old times. And you still have to
Yeah,
argue against it.
I
You
agree
still
with
have
you
to
there
argue.
too.
So Islam, what I would believe, basically, I would say Islam argues the old is better. Like these natural foods, putting them in your body is better than all this ingested GMOs. It would never agree with the GMOs, for example.
If someone gave
It
you a
says
Windows,
for
if
example, the
someone gave
sanctity
you
of
a
the human
Windows
body is important.
98,
It would never agree with genetic mutations. So yeah, we will never agree with that stuff. Yeah, we would actually live with mutations. We would just suffer through them. Like we would. I honestly would. If you tell me right now my
if
baby could be born no downs or downs, I'll be like, man, this is a test from God. I'm just gonna take him. I'm not gonna try to mess around because what's my proof? What if you genetically edit him into something else? No, 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 no. I'm not gonna mess around with that at all. No. You
but
see where I'm
that's
coming from?
you're letting your emotions get into it, right? That's your subjective feelings right there. Your subjective feelings is that you feel like, hey, like even though science tells me that like, hey, I can produce a child without Down syndrome, you have this innate feeling inside that you can't trust
Value,
science, right? You can't
value. Yeah.
trust science. No, not
No, no.
value.
There's an
It's just that
intrinsic
you don't
value.
trust science.
No, no, nature, there's an intrinsic value in providing in what nature provided for you. So let's say I married this girl, she gave me a Down syndrome kid. We take care of him. This is a test from God. I don't throw the kid out. I don't just get rid of him because this is a test. But that doesn't mean I
I don't
don't
think
get to
anyone's
have
trying to
another
do that.
baby. That doesn't mean I don't get to have another baby. That doesn't mean I don't get to get remarried. Like I can solve it in many other ways. I just don't solve it with genetic mutation. I just take care of that kid. He becomes another
But
one of my
you said your
responsibilities that I
basis,
agreed
but
to.
you also said that your
But
basis
that,
is from that because you don't trust science, right? Like that's the whole point of also why,
of
like, are
course,
you against vaccination?
yeah, yeah, of course, of course, of course, yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
vaccines,
That's another part. I
every
would
single
never
one of
trust a
them.
doctor ever. Yeah, yeah, of course. But that's because I tested the doctors and they failed. Like I had to go through surgery and a lot of things. I'm not going to talk about it, but I would never trust a doctor in general. No, no, no. I would never trust a doctor. I'm serious. I'm right now healing myself by myself using natural medicines. No medication. I'm supposed to go to the doctor. I don't go to the doctor. I completely do my own thing natural. I just prefer it this way, man. Just because the doctor is telling me something, I don't necessarily trust it. Because I tested him. I asked him to give me diets, and I asked him to get me to a nutritionist, and I asked him he would never accept that. He would never give me any nutrition, and all of it is in my stomach. So when you won't even give me a nutritionist, why should I trust you? You're just medicating me. The first thing he does is medicate me. Why would I trust that? No, I'm not. I'm not gonna just shove something in my blood. I tried it for a couple of months. And I didn't like it.
So is that the failure of the doctor, or is that the failure also like where you're at? Because like
I think
what
it's
it
the
also
doctor
comes
for
down to is
sure.
like,
I think it's the
because
doctor.
like,
Because I think
because
there's a
like
solution for me, but he
here in
just wants to
America,
medicate
like
me.
yeah, but here in America, like the actual like
It's an
medical
incentive.
advances are like really, really good. They're great, you know? So I
Yeah, but
wonder
they have
how it is
incentives
for
to sell you pharmaceuticals, and they have incentives to make you a permanent patient. Like I didn't know this, but my doctor gets stipends, he gets grants, he gets money from pharmaceutical companies.
so if
No,
we're gonna argue, no,
and
hold
he
on.
gave
If
me
we're
the
gonna
most
argue
expensive
against how the
and he gave me the
mental
most
like
expensive medicine in the whole hospital. It's called Remicade. Look it up. He gave me the most. It's like a dialysis. You sit for 2 hours every 2 months. The most
I think that's
expensive
the
medicine in
failure
the
Okay,
of the
whole.
let's
I
we're
feel
getting
like
a little bit
that's
out
the
of the
failure.
scope, so we're gonna
Yeah,
move
yeah.
to closing statements. I do want to end though before my video has a Wikipedia link under it. Federal law does forbid doctors from receiving commissions for for
Yeah.
prescribing a drug,
I was about to
but
say like that
I just wanted to
that's the
say that so
failure
I
of
don't
the
get taken
individual.
down. But
Yeah.
there are some conspiracy theories on how they could do that. I won't. Listen. I'm not touching that with a 12-foot pole. I'm not touching with a 20-foot. But since we started with Blur for the opening statements, we will go with Manar starting first with the closing.
All right. Thank you so much, Blur, for your time. I think you're very misguided. I think you have contentions about Islam itself that come from a little bit preconceived conditioning from your society that told you that certain things are wrong. You've never even tested them. I'd asked you why are certain things wrong. You can only find the wrong in their consequences. You cannot find the wrong in their actual. There's nothing innately wrong about the actual behavior. It's only wrong because of the consequence that happens based on that behavior. That proves to me that you can never trust society like atheism. At any point, it can create a climate catastrophe, a natural catastrophe, an emergency situation to revaccinate you and shove you with whatever genetically editing, genetically mutating drugs they can find now. And another reason is atheistic societies just force you again to live in the pod. I didn't see any disagreement on this. It rots away traditional morality. It makes you only care about and only get basically motivated by whatever money you make or whatever personal growth you can gain from it. You don't care at all about any other societal growth. Another reason why I don't believe in an atheistic society is actually good for the community or atheism in general. Atheism worldviews are good for the society. It's because they actually only care about the individual. They don't care about the actual society. The minute the society disagrees with them, they immediately label the society as toxic and leave the society or just cut off everyone altogether from the society. They don't even have to leave it. They just go find a different group, friends, and outcast themselves altogether. In Islam, instead, Islam brings you closer to God. Islam brings you closer to the traditional values. If you love having a beautiful family, a big family that takes care of you, if you love having your grandparents around and take care of them, if you want your children to be strong and behave correctly and grow to become strong children, if you want your wife to be chaste and follow your orders and to make sure you have the right choices when it comes to the mother of your kid, that's what Islam provides for you. Islam provides a solution to every problem you can find in society, from overindulgence in pornography, in drugs, and even the restitution and losing hope of all of life together, nihilism. Islam gives you a solution to all of that, gives you a reason to live, gives you something to believe in the afterlife after death, and actually gives you all the moral guide that you necessarily need so you can live a righteous life. I did not hear one argument from Blur's side to explain why things are innately wrong. He only believes things are wrong based on his own subjective views and how they affect him, and anecdotally speaking, what they do to his feelings. But he doesn't actually understand why things are wrong innately. I want to hear why is being I asked him very clarifying questions. Why is being a man equal to being a woman? How do you agree with them being able to switch? He has completely accepted this fact that these two, the trans and LGBTQ community, is interchangeable, and men and women are interchangeable. Another reason why I believe society is going to fail when it comes to atheism taking over that world, the society's worldviews, is because they just don't even know what the difference between man and woman is. They don't have any way to contend against it. They can't even describe basic definitions of the matter. And I challenged Blur here, and all he was able to give me is his own subjective opinions. I really want to know, from an atheistic perspective, how in the world can anyone that's atheistic accept living in a society that forces him to lose every hope that he has in the afterlife and in his own being, that forces him to believe he was a random organization of chemicals, completely in random put together, and he has no purpose in this world except to pleasure himself and to pleasure and to gain as much and to reduce the harm as much as possible around him, which is absolutely arbitrary principle that makes no sense. The collective good in that principle is not even explained, and I have a lot of contentions against atheism. I did not hear any answers to them today, unfortunately, and I really do believe atheism will lead you to live in the pod.
And then
All right.
Blurs.
Yeah. So pretty much what I'm gonna say is that, like, for atheism, most of our stuff that, like, we base off our objective is through science. Science is a systematic, it's a reliable way to ask questions, to seek answers about the natural world. Like, we peer review each other, we go through each other, like, we actually have like the tests, studies, and results to show for it. You can see it everywhere. It like teaches you about like critical thinking. You have to have openness, right? That's one of the main things about atheism, is you have to be open to the ideas of everyone around you. Because like we have seen it time and time again, especially with religion, that like just because something says that like, hey, it's set in stone, it doesn't make it the correct way. We've seen it time and time again where like people start bashing homosexuality, they start bashing trans rights, they start allowing child marriages to happen, they start allowing for just like a different set of things that like it just doesn't make any sense. You have to have acceptance and tolerance of diverse lifestyles. Also, when it comes to atheism, one of the benefits that comes along with it is that like education is actually not correlated with the detriment of the disbelief in God. If anything, it actually creates greater tolerance and also skepticism for everyone. So this is also a huge benefit. We use human rights as the moral tool. But essentially what's going on too is that we have stated it time and time and again that incest is actually incorrect. We do believe in some form of family tradition. A lot of the things that he's been stating that like is incorrect in atheism views is actually not atheism. It's actually the failure of the government as well. We didn't get into that. But we do have our moralities, and a lot of our moralities stem from objectiveness, right? Their objectiveness of Muslim society stems from the Quran. If someone told you years and years, like someone told you right now that like, hey, if you use Windows 96, it is the best thing to use for Twitch streaming, would you use that? No, you would not. You would want a more robust kind of computer in order for you to use to Twitch stream. So just because someone says like, hey, this is what we go back to, this is what we're gonna follow, that doesn't make it correct. We have different sources for our morals, philosophy being one of the major ones. And he's saying that like, like we're all set up of just like atoms and just like all these different particles, and what exactly holds us to like our morals and everything like that. Like the thing is, we all have our inherent, we find out through ourselves, through our experiences, that like, hey, what am I here for, right? One of the best things that I feel like that has connected with me is that like what I do here now, as long as I leave this place better than how I found it, then I have done something good, right? And I believe that's probably how a lot of atheists find to believe, is that like, they actually do accept the YOLO. It's you only live once, right? Do the most that you can with it and try to benefit other people around you with it as well. And I guess that's pretty much it. That's all I really got.
And then as we wrap up, again, this would be a good time just because this is also going to be in the video. With Manar, your channel link for Twitch is what? Manar Reports, if I'm correct. There's no special characters.
Yeah, it's gonna be Manar Reports. No space even. Manar Man-A-R Reports.
And then Blur, yours is PensiveBlur. If you have anything else you want to.
Yeah, so pretty much for everything, it's just going to be PensiveBlur, PensiveBlur, PensiveBlur.
So let's hope that you give them both views so Manar can get more battery packs because we gotta help with that. But with that being said,